The hearing of the Committee on Finance is resumed. We would like to welcome the entire DepEd family headed by its Secretary, Secretary Armin Luistro. If you have a presentation, Mr. Secretary, you may proceed at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat.
Magandang umaga po, Senator Cheese Escudero. Kasama po yung ang DepEd family. Will try to go through the slides swiftly, but you could pause us for questions.
No, tapusin niyo na ho bago may dumating na iba.
Sir, the last 22 months of the Aquino administration will be focused, especially for DepEd, on the last mile. No? And we will show in our presentation the last sectors, the few sectors that we feel should be given access to quality education. Our presentation, the next slide, just shows five sections, ending with the proposed budget and highlights of such. No? In the next slide, our constitutional mandate, of course, is on the right of every Filipino for quality education, and that's translated in our vision mission statement, beginning with our core values as makabdiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, makabansa, as a nation that passionately love our country and whose values contribute to nation building. That is further translated, in the next slide, into our particular role in the President's social contract, the long-term goal of which is actually inclusive growth. The department will be able to show, together with our attached agencies, that all of our final outputs and organizational outcomes should lead towards inclusive growth. In the next slide, I think the biggest challenge for DepEd is and blessing is our numbers. Our current enrollment in 2013, that's last year, and this is slightly even higher this year, is already beyond 24 million. And that translates to close to 1/4 of the Philippine population. That's counting even the overseas workers. We'll be able to show, Your Honor, that the biggest numbers are seen in kindergarten, and we're at 2.2, almost 2.3 million this year, with our elementary and high school graduates totaling close to 21 million in the public schools, with only 12% in private schools. We have also 500,000 of alternative learners in various centers in the Philippines. Next slide. This is an interesting slide, Your Honor, because you'll be able to see that since 2010, our Philippine population, especially of school-age children from 5 to 15, has largely remained on the 22.5 million over the past 4 years. And that will be almost like a straight line in the coming years. But you'll notice that our in-school population has really increased up to 95%. We need to sit down with NEDA and the Philippine Statistics Authority to further refine this, because we're trying to get a breakdown on a per age level. But my sense is we really are, we have the enrollment of almost every Filipino. And that's why in the last 22 months, we need to reach out and find where are these others who are not yet enrolled. In the next slide, this translates also to, for example, for 5-year-olds, these are kinder. These are children of school age, but the numbers will be going up very dramatically. You'll notice that from the 6 to 11, almost every child is in school. And that's why it's important for us to work with other government agencies to continue to reach out and look for those who are not yet in school. The next major challenge is to ensure that they are kept in school. And that's why that would be part of the goal for our K-12 curriculum reform. The next slide. In the past decade, Your Honor, the completers These are the students who entered in 2004 and graduated in 2013. These are the old figures, no? And we know that for every 100 of our students, only 47 of that cohort was able to finish with fourth year high school, no? The new numbers show, it's very early to tell, but the new numbers tell us that there is a slight change and improvement already from those who enrolled from kinder to grade 1. Do we have the next slide? And from grade 1 to grade 2, all the way to grade 4. You'll notice, Your Honor, that in 2004, those moving from grade 1 to grade 2 is only 81 of the 100. No? That has now increased to 92 of every 100 that enrolled in grade 1. So if we're able to keep our curriculum and our facilities ready for those who are in school and have various programs to ensure that they remain in school, we should be seeing very good numbers in 4 or 5 years. In the next slide. In terms of quality, with its many limitations, the National Achievement Test is the only other source of data on how our curriculum is in terms of our learners' achievement. No? But given its different limitations, the results of at least for grade 6 in these different areas, Filipino, math, English, science, HECASI, show that there is a slight improvement from hovering around the 60s, mid-60s, 65, 66, to the 70, 76, all the way to, 70 to 76 in those various levels. We need to continue to improve, and I am very certain that in the next few years, as we supply our teachers both with modules as well as materials for science and math, the numbers, at least in the achievement test, should go up. The other next slides just show this is for fourth year. It's not as promising as in elementary, but we need to continue to work on that. But that's the nature of education. You'd have to start with elementary before it reaches the right fruits in high school. In the next slide. For those who are unable to go to formal education, we have around more than 500,000 in the alternative learning system. You'd notice that there is also a big jump from 330,000 to around more than 500,000 now enrolled in our alternative learning system, with many of them also increasing in the number of completers. We would need to continue this as we reach out to those who in the past decade were unable to enter into the formal school system. These are the number of test takers and passers. That has also increased over the past years. The next slide. The milestones, if we were to summarize budget-wise, we have actually increased from a budget of 175 billion in 2010 to 309 this year, and we're asking for 364 billion for this coming year. That really is the biggest increase in the budget of at least the DepEd for many, I think, since the beginning of Philippine history.
How much? 55 billion, right? An increase of 55 billion from last year.
For next year, yes, Your Honor. But you notice that even here, if we track that from 2010, that's more than I think 107% increase. So that has been really very helpful for the department. That represents, Your Honor, around that's 5.4% of the growth rate from last year, at least the 2014 budget. In the next slide, we're happy to announce, Your Honor, that our complete curriculum has been posted from kinder all the way to grade 12. It's in the DepEd portal, and it covers kinder, elementary, and junior high school and senior high school with its 4 tracks. Anyone, including parents, will be able to access the curriculum, and this will be the source guide, the reference, for both public and private schools in terms of the competencies for each grade level and subject area. No? Next slide will show the different programs. I admit we need to simplify this and institutionalize many of these programs. From kinder to 3, 4 to 6, and 7 to 10, we have various programs, actually in my mind too many, to try to reach out to those who cannot be mainstreamed, or those who are vulnerable to being pushed out of the system. We need to harvest the best practices here, and before the Aquino administration ends its term, we need to ensure that the best ones are institutionalized in the mainstream program. The next slide. We are actually, Your Honor, midway in the implementation of our K-12. We have already anticipated all the needs for the next 2 years, all the way to 2016, including classrooms and teachers, and these are included in the 2015 budget submission, as well as projections for the 2016 budget requirements. We really are also at our last mile in the full implementation of the new curriculum. In the next slide. These are the 4 remaining tasks for the K-12 review. No? With the completion of the curriculum, we are now reviewing our assessment framework, including the National Achievement Test, and articulating how we improve the inclusion provisions in the curriculum for those who are not yet, do not have full access to that. That means Muslim learners, IPs, street children, and children with special needs. That also requires building our human resources. We have a workforce of around 700,000 teachers now, but we need to continue to roll out a retooling of those, of our teachers, and retrain them so that they become even better facilitators of learning. We need to work very closely with the private groups, and part of our plan for the K-12 curriculum implementation is really a voucher system that will allow, will essentially expand the GASPE law to include senior high school. And of course, ensuring that our physical facilities are not only supplied but are also maintained well. In our budget, Your Honor, we have included a lot of repairs, but as well as procurement of many equipment for laboratories as well as technical vocational centers. The next slide. Our assistance, and this is essentially GASPE, we are now at 809,000 students, and by 2014, that should go all the way up to around 920,000 or so, very close to our 1 million target by 2015. That means a significant number of high school students in private schools are already getting enough support from government. By expanding this to senior high school by the year 2016, we should be able to have a program that allows almost all Filipinos to have access to quality education. I hasten to add also that this is also beneficial to government, because we have savings with this program rather than us supplying all these requirements for education. In the next slide, over the past years, ending in December 2013, we have constructed 66,813 classrooms. This coming year, thus far as of August, we have done around close to 10,000, and some of the remaining ones will be finished hopefully before December. but there will be others that will be finished by early first quarter of 2015. My projection for the year in terms of classrooms that will be actually constructed, not based on the budget, but those that will be turned over, will hover between the 2012 and the 2013 numbers, so hovering around 25,000. Um, Most of the classroom construction for the remainder of 2014 and 2015 will be focused on the needs for the senior high school, Your Honor. In the next slide, the most number of teachers hired by government in the national budget over the past years has been since 2010. That number's close to 140,000 teachers, with a new set that we're asking for in the 2015 budget. When we reviewed the number of kinder volunteers, as well as those that are locally hired by the school board, those numbers are close to zero now, except in some divisions where the numbers are still significant. But our intention, Your Honor, is that all teachers in DepEd by next year should generally be in the national plantilla. In the next slide, these are some of our important policy changes that are helpful for our learner-centered vision. The next slide, the child protection that covers a whole range of child issues and which is meant to be school-based and helps teachers, parents, and principals address bullying and other child vulnerabilities on site, no, in school. Mostly focusing on preventive rather than just addressing the problems when they arise. The next major innovation of the department is on learner-centered modalities. We have pushed for many new programs that will reach out to those that are not yet in the mainstream, including for Muslim education, indigenous peoples, street children, those who are already married, teenage families, but cannot go to school. Special education, we're trying to work with an advisory group so that we could address those needs. And of course, our alternative learning system. And then thirdly, this is by far the most complex, if not complicated, challenge to the department over the last 3 years in the initial implementation of K-12. We initially thought we could do with 12 mother tongue languages. We had to expand that to 19. That means we had to develop materials for every single one of them, in some instances, including dictionaries and original stories to push for the programs from kinder to grade 3. But we're happy to report that most of these materials are already in use. We are actually in the stage where we are reviewing them based on the first year implementation, first cycle, and doing a version 2 so that we could improve those materials. I am so certain that the materials that we were able to produce over the past 3 years contributed not only to the pedagogical resources of the nation, but also for our culture as well as language advocacies. In the next slide, we cannot continue to do more of the same, Your Honor, in the next 22 months. The most important remaining work of the department are in IT and using this to ensure that we continue to reach out, especially in hard-to-reach areas. In the next slide, we are happy to report, Your Honor, that all of our materials in K-12 are digitized. And in fact, they are accessible via a portal for teachers, and eventually I think we could open this up to students. This is also our contribution to ensure that our materials can easily be edited and enhanced, as well as be accessible to students even beyond hard prints. They can actually use this as our resource when we continue to print new materials from our digitized portal. Good morning, Senator Pia. The next slide. you'll notice that in our learner portal, we are able to address most of the needs of teachers. And even if some of the materials are delayed, teachers can access those in digital form using our DepEd portal. Um, our program in the next 22 months, Your Honors, would be to actually ensure that our schools are have all the facilities uh, for IT use as a tool for learning. Um, we have we are almost there in terms of supplying 100% all of our high schools with an IT package, and we're now doing the procurement and doing the 50% of elementary with the target of doing 100% of elementary by next year. So all of our schools, 47,000, except those that are off grid and do not have power and are unenergized. In those instances, we are partnering with private groups to supply solar generators so that they can also be part of the IT packages that we intend to distribute to all the schools. And uh, part of our last mile is to reach out to areas where education has not been provided to various learners for one reason or the other. In the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, we have partnered with BRAC, a Bangladeshi group, to start new schools, beginning with kinder, in hard-to-reach areas, where it's difficult to send teachers. And from a pilot of around 5 schools over the past year and a half, that now has ballooned to more than 200 learning centers in the Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao. We're doing exactly the same thing with the various groups and partnering with NCIP for indigenous peoples. Our learners for both have exceeded 1 million. 2 million learners in these sectors that heretofore have not received that access that other Filipinos had in the past decades. We are looking at our multi-grade program, and these are really around 8,000 or so schools with very small enrollment, some at just less than 200 students. We are reviewing what is the best way of providing them with the best kind of education, including IT packages. We also have enough experience and pilot schools for an open high school. There are around 980 schools that have ongoing open high school programs. We continue to monitor this, and we will be able to look at how successful we have been in those instances. We have mapped around 1.2 million out of school youth. These are those that are from age 15 to 30 that may not have finished high school. We have an actual listing, and our teachers are doing a profile of what kinds of programs can be offered to them. And of course, we continue to have around 75,000 learners in our alternative delivery modes. These are mostly those who are working or have families already and cannot go to a regular school program. So these are just at least 4 of the major programs that we do for those who cannot go to a mainstream program in DepEd. In terms of the budget, just on the highlights of the budget, our request for our 2014 budget compared with the 2015 budget is we have a request for 365 billion, an 18% increase from this year's budget. There's a 26.7% increase in capital outlay, and that's because we're doing a lot for physical facilities beyond just the basic needs. We're doing computers, equipment for math and science, as well as classrooms for senior high school in time for 2016. In the next slide, the 54 billion. There's a 54 billion in new appropriations. We will give you the details later. In the next slide, these are the details of the DepEd proper and our other fund sources. Generally staying around the same numbers, except under operations. And then in support to operations that's around 2 billion. The regular school building program is actually transferred to the other DepEd programs. So it's actually the same numbers. In fact, most of that will be now transferred to the senior high school classrooms. In the next slide, in terms of our attached agencies, generally most of them stay around the figures last year. The biggest increase, however, will be in terms of the National Museum, and that's because of some major infrastructure there that they're doing. And then there is that increase in the miscellaneous personal benefits of the Philippine High School for the Arts. And the others are the regular automatic appropriations. There's an increase in the special account in the general fund. We could give you the justification for that later. Just as an overall, just to contextualize the budget for the 2015, these are just in terms of the major final outputs. Most of it is actually in basic education services. That's actually the biggest bulk. The other two are really in support of it. And then, just to highlight, these are the major investments in the 2015 budget increase. We are asking essentially for 39,000 teacher items. That's around 9.4 billion. We're asking for new learning, procurement of learning materials. That's around 70 million, Your Honors. That's really for grade 4 and grade 10. That's the last two groups, at least for next year. No? And then for GASPE, it's around the same figures, 8.4. And that will come close to around that will support around 1 million students in private schools. Beyond the basics, these are the investments that we're pushing for the 2015 budget. We're doing more than close to 8,000 science and math equipment packages, different from what we do in a laboratory. These are packages that will be used inside the classroom. And we're actually equipping almost like a science and math kit per teacher so that they can use this without having to go to, because in most instances, you only have one or at most two science laboratories. We want this equipment in the classroom itself. No? We're procuring, Your Honors, 24,000 e-classroom packages. These are for our targeted schools, mostly this time in elementary, with the target that we will be able to finish 100% all 47,000 schools that are energized by next year. And we have a feeding program. This year it has been increased to 1.37 billion. Last year it was around 1 billion, because we have requested that this cover not only the severely wasted but also the wasted learners. Our numbers is we have around 500,000 severely wasted, so we're adding a budget to also reach out to to both severely and as well as the wasted learners. And our major program before the end of the Aquino administration is to reach out to 1 million out-of-school youth. These are really 15 to 30-year-olds. We're partnering with TESDA so that these are really more life skills, but also in many instances an actual high school diploma. We requested for close to 2 billion in budget. That just translates to support for 1 million out of school youth by this year, by next year, to continue the program we started this year. And in terms of preparation for 2016, these are the requests that are embedded in the 2015 budget. For classrooms, we should be able to finish if we add the 2014 budget for senior high school classrooms, around 30,000 classrooms ready for use by grade 11 learners by June 2016. Um, Close to 10,000 classrooms would need to be repaired and or rehabilitated, just to make sure that we don't have the big backlog again in the coming years. We're procuring essentially the same number of seats to replace those that are being those that we have to retire. But most of the seats will go actually to the classrooms, the new classrooms that will be put up. Water and sanitation, this may be the last time we will have a separate item for water and sanitation. In the succeeding years, we are including toilets and wash facilities in the construction of new classrooms. We really need to beef up our tech voc laboratories, especially as we gear up for K to 12. Most of the programs in DepEd senior high schools over the country will be focusing on tech voc, and we need to provide them with essential sana state-of-the-art equipment for tech voc. All of those will come to around 52, 53 billion, with around just the training and retooling of 160,000 teachers. These are for grade 4 and grade 10 for next year. By which time we should really be very, very ready for K to 12 by June 2016. Next slide. Your Honors, those are the last few items that the department would need to do in the next 22 months, essentially ensuring that the reform in education and the curriculum is institutionalized, ensuring that if there are any others that are not yet in the mainstream, that we have programs to reach out to them, and so that before the end of the Aquino administration, we should be able to institutionalize the reforms in the education sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sec. Chair would like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Pia Cayetano and Senator Nancy Binay. At this juncture, may I recognize Senator Pia for her interventions on the budget of the DepEd as well as its attached agencies. Senator Pia, good morning. You are recognized, ma'am. You may proceed.
Thank you. For the information of the chair, we have an ongoing hearing on K to 12, and this will proceed hopefully after 2 weeks, because I'm really busy with a few other things. But so a lot of the questions I have or have been receiving from our colleagues, I will just be asking in those hearings, no? But in the meantime, a few questions. I came in late, so forgive me if there's a slide that already answers my questions. I'll be happy if you just point it out to me. Let me start with one of the programs that are close to my heart, which Yusek Dina Ocampo and I are supposed to have a meeting on as well. So I haven't had time for. Just very quickly for the record on the early childhood programs. Where are we now? Just an overview so that our we can put it on record, because it is an integral part of the basic education system, no? And I think from most experts state that it is the most important phase of a child's learning, the learning process. So can we just hear from Yusek Ocampo on this?
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for the question. First of all, we have we have a key stage, which is K to 3, kinder to grade 3, and we regard that as a full stage for early childhood. Before that, we have attached to the Department of Education the Early Childhood um, Care and Development Council, and together those two stages will comprise from 0 to 8 years old. And programs for that include, for example, in the ECCD level, promotion of child development centers or child development areas in various communities. And this is in support of or in collaboration as well with local governments and the DSWD. So, and of course, the OH. For DepEd side, we're continuing the process of strengthening kindergarten education.
Can you step back? Let's go by age, no? So when we speak of pre-K, would that now be totally delegated still to DSWD because they run the daycares? How does the collaboration work? How does your input in terms of the educational value to the daycare setup come in?
What has happened is that through the creation of the Early Years Act, the ECCD Council has been organized, and this council is comprised of DSW, DepEd, DOH, and there's one more. Then, of course, syempre, the ALG is a part of that council. There are also people from sectors that have a lot of stake in early childhood education. So together, there are health programs, and then there are family mother programs, and as well as childhood programs. So in the education part, it's really a section of the Bureau of Elementary Education that collaborates with the ECCD Council. However, within the council itself is expertise on that area. So that's how we meet together. We have at the moment early childhood programs that are talagang pre-nursery, parang socialization and building on the daycare service that the SWD already has. So from that daycare service, then there's a little bit more of support for early learning that is done. But the emphasis really at that early stage is health and nutrition as much as possible. But
Okay, but up to what age are the children who are in those 0 to 4? Okay, we do know that in private schools for parents who can afford, that's so critical, no? That 0 to 4 in terms of learning, not just health. So are we focused on health because that's our no? I know for a fact nutrition is very important, especially among the poor. I don't argue with that. But on the learning scale, no, I mean, I'm just saying, comparatively, if you compare it to a developed country that has the resources, or to any Filipino parent that also has the resources, at 4 years old, a lot of their children are reading. My 4-year-old is not, so I'm not saying it because every 4-year-old must read. But I'm saying those who can afford, where finances are not an issue, they do have the best schools available to them. So that's what I'm driving at. How do we compare, at least in teacher training and then in facilities, when it comes to the daycare? That's what I'm driving at, because there's so much emphasis on K to 12, specifically the additional 2 years. What we want to see is if we are putting in as much attention into the lower end.
Your Honor, this is a very interesting discussion, because I think part of the challenge for early childhood care is really the reality that this has been devolved to local government. So I've seen that local government that have actually enshrined a child-friendly program, including, I know that with DOH, the main program is, but that has also been devolved to local government, is really from 0 to 2, is really breastfeeding as the most critical component of nutrition. And then they do daycare 3 to 4, hoping that if they are actually in a daycare center, then part of the nutrition review and profiling can be done. But this really is very varied, and I think there are many gaps there. precisely because that has been devolved to local government. And I think there's a function there both of finances but also vision for in terms of child friendliness.
So in that case, should we amend the law? Because if we look at the education, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is preschool education is the most important. So in the 2 minutes that we've been exchanging ideas here, it appears to me that health would be the primary function of these daycares, which are devolved and which would basically be governed by DSWD. Well, is managed by DSWD in collaboration, managed by the local government in collaboration with DSWD and with primary input from DOH. That's how it seems to me. So if, unless you disagree with me that uh, preschool education should be given more emphasis in this age, at this age, within this age bracket, then there's either a need for us to amend the law or to look at your existing structure and see what has to change. Do we agree? At least I have to understand if I'm thinking of the same thing you are, or if we're totally on different.
Actually, I think we're pretty much on the same page. The issue, I suppose, is that what we would like to see is some strengthening of early childhood programs that are community based, closer to homes, rather than including them in the formal ladder of the basic education program. I think that a lot of parents would prefer that they are able to help their children or bring their children to childcare or to ECE or early childhood education programs that are nearer where they are. And the strengthening of that has to do with the several programs that are embedded within the Early Years Act. For example, family or neighborhood-based daycare or early childhood centers. Some of them are based on yung barangay level centers, which is what like the SWD does. Um, some of them are attached to nearby public schools, so they have play centers and so on. But those are very few, Your Honor. The real issue, I think, is being able to bring down into community level more early childhood activities or stimulation, and that's, I think, very important to go coincide with health.
Okay, my last comment on this, and then maybe we can go back to the original plan, which is for us to have a discussion on it, and if necessary, to look into the law. But for budget purposes, for you to be able to achieve what you said, I'm not going to disagree with it being community based and parent and child interaction. I'm all for that. There must be a budget involved there. We must have budgets for either teachers who train the parents or teachers, and whether they are. I mean, at the end of the day, in an ideal situation, you would have teachers who specialize in pre-K available to available to every child. No, I don't think that's going to happen if you're going to stick with the objective of having a neighborhood-based learning center. Then the idea of having a preschool specialized teacher in every neighborhood is very difficult to achieve. So having said that, how do we get as close to that as possible? For me, you teach the parents, but is that even happening? So where are we there? And this is a budget hearing, so let's focus on that, no? What are the goals, if any, with respect to achieving that?
Within the programming of the ECCD Council, there is what do you say, budget or funding coming from PAGCOR for its institutionalization and
Bakit
initial.
PAGCOR?
Ay,
Why is this not part of DepEd's budget?
Well, because we're an attached agency, and because it's really devolved to the local government, this is just to help jumpstart those programs, essentially for teacher training.
And how much is it?
500 million for 20.
600. How much? It's actually in the GAA also, Your Honor, but it will be funded by PAGCOR as provided for in the law. And for 2015, that is 633 million for the entire operations of ECCDC, an increase from last year or this year's level of 480 million. And primarily, the increase is brought about by the plan to establish the child centers.
So this budget is primarily,
It's under
if you look at the breakdown, can you just give me an overview of it? It's did you say for establishment? So it's construction of ECC, the centers themselves.
It is construction and operations because in some cases they don't need to construct if the
They're existing.
Yes.
So yeah, so we can move on. Can somebody just hand me the computation, and then I can take a look at it. And then just for the record, in one of just the latest slides shown on the feeding programs for the severely wasted and wasted learners, we had a hearing on this, and DepEd was represented there. There are a couple of bills in the Senate seeking to legislate this program, and I wanted to just point out my concern, and this is really a DOH issue, but we've already just because it is also DepEd led, no, because the budget comes from DepEd. I just put on record that the quality of the food that we serve. And I mean, we had a good hearing on it, so this is just to take the opportunity to inform the secretary that we discussed with the Nutrition Council on the need for not just the food that would help children gain weight per se, but also nutritional in the long term, because of the long-term studies that we have, that the biggest problem our country, and for that matter most countries, will face is obesity and diabetes. So to fast, if we try to, if simple weight gain is the goal, it may be at the expense of nutrition. So we've discussed this thoroughly. I just wanted to be sure that the secretary knows of my concern, because when we finalize the bill, we wanted to be sure that this is a matter that we don't overlook. It's easy to try to address it by pumping kids with high-calorie food, and then honestly, the reality is we will pay for it in the future through PhilHealth, through the DOH, through all the obesity problems, the diabetes related ailments that we're going to have. So this is just a concern. We're just moving it 3 generations away. So that is my big concern there, Mr. Chair. I hesitate to ask many of my questions because, as I said, they're K-12 related, and many are also very much involved in my, related to the hearings I'm having, and I will not waste the time of the budget committee here on this. On the bathrooms, the secretary mentioned that all the new construction will be including toilet facilities, no? Because we no longer have PDAF. My question is, my first statement is, we don't have the opportunity anymore to fill in the gaps as we saw it, no? So this now all goes to you. And so what do we do? Can we assume, or is there an existing program on providing for toilet facilities in the many schools that never either didn't have any or did not have enough toilet facilities? Because this also goes to my concern on health, which I'm sure is also your concern.
Thank you, Your Honor. The program for Watson has been there for the last almost a decade now. So when I go around the schools, almost all the schools have a toilet. No?
Okay.
So what we're actually doing now is really upgrading it. So because some of those were just really makeshift kinds of toilets. We have to work with local government to make sure that there's connection with the running water. No? that is a challenge because
Yeah.
we still have sitios where there's no connection for running water. But that really is part of what we need to do in terms of partnership with local government. The third, Your Honor, is really we reviewing the program. We felt that it is best to include it in all new construction of buildings because in fact that's how it has happened in the past recent years, no? Especially when you have multi-story buildings, you really cannot put up a toilet that's a standalone. It has to be conceptualized and part of the budget of the building. So that's really why we're shifting it to be part of the building. So most of these other needs for toilets will be to really refurbish it, but also lastly, to add a wash facility. Because in the past, Your Honor, it was just a cubicle for the toilet. But working with the different health agencies, we realized that part of it is our program for toothbrushing and hand washing. Then we now require that they include the washing facilities, Your Honor. So if there are other schools with such needs, I think these are mostly for repair, and we could easily include that in the program.
Okay, well, so aligned with that question on us being unable to respond to areas of that need assistance. Can we just forward to you these requests for classrooms that we continue to receive? I'll just ask them to hand it to you.
We have many such referrals, Your Honor. So
Well, I'm sure. And I suppose that's the only way we can continue to try to address this is to really just formally turn it over to you.
Your Honor, just very briefly to mention that we take all of the referrals very seriously, but we have a system also of validating it, and then the program is based on the validation of whether it's actually needed or there is no facility.
Okay. I actually do have a few other questions, but Mr. Chair, I don't mind deferring to you and to Senator Nancy for a while. I'll listen to your questions, and as I said, I have the opportunity to discuss with them in my upcoming hearing. So, depending if there's more time, then I'll ask the chair for more time later. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pia. Senator Nancy, you have any questions?
Good morning.
If you have any interventions and questions, you may proceed, ma'am, and you're recognized. Good morning.
Good morning po, Secretary Armin. You mentioned ho kanina 70 million learning materials. Ano ho itong mga materials na to?
Senator, yung 70 million na yan is just for next year. Because next year, then that's the new, the next set. Kasi nasa grade 3 at grade 9 ho kami ngayon. So by next year, they will be moving up to grade 4 and grade 10. And those will be the learning materials for that cohort, for those two cohorts, Your Honor.
What kind of materials?
Ito po yung learner modules. These are the ones that will go to every student. And then meron din ho yung bagong set ng teacher guides. They are actually we're actually procuring them now. Pinapabid na po ngayon kasi natapos na po namin yung content. It is really for the printing bidding.
Secretary Armin, yung learning modules, are these textbooks? Or
Technically, they're not textbooks. They're learner modules. It's a compilation of what the students need to use for the school year. Pero it's like a textbook. Kaya lang hindi po siya. It's not a print out of the old textbook type. Kasi yung dati, pati yung mostly ito yung mga activities that they need to do. No? Kasama rin pala ho dito yung for kinder activity sheets. Kasi yung mga libro ho yan, imagine that for every student, you have at least 5 or 6 learner modules. Kasama ho dyan, so you have around 2 million times 5 for grade 4, and then another 1.5 million siguro for grade 10.
yung learning modules na ho to per subject? And
Opo.
one
Opo.
is to one. So
Opo.
if there's, I think 7 subjects ho at a time. diba?
And then they
So-
get 7.
So one student ho will get 7 modules.
Opo. Tapos kasama ho dyan yung sa kinder. Kasi yung sa upper grades, we use that for 5-6 years. Yung sa kinder po, taon-taon pinapalitan namin kasi they have to write on that activity sheet.
Actually, just to clarify on that point, ito pong mga piprint natin, magagamit pa next year nung susunod na grade 4 or o susulatan na po nila? Because
Magagamit pa
I
ulit.
see my kids' books. Sinusulatan nila yung libro eh. Meaning, nandun yung workbook nila. They're given free sheets, rather individual sheets, but they usually write on the book. So in this case, magagamit pa na next year.
Ito po, ang ginagawa sa public school, sa private school po, usually doon na nila sa public school, except for kinder, na they write on the activity sheet. Yung sa learner modules, kung kailangan po nung magsulat, they're given another sheet.
Long before you replace them?
Ilan ba tayo? In the past po, mga 4-5 years. Ngayon, the materials are, we're thinking of mga 3 years.
3 years before we replace them. So we will be printing another 70 million or more 3 years down the road.
Grade 4 lang po yun. Pero, so think of every grade level, you need to replace them every 3 years.
Thank you.
Siguro, Secretary, can we get a copy of how the module looks like? So, paano ang estudyante, pag kunyari nabigyan mo sila, they need to use their own paper to write
Kung
the answers?
if that is required. Kasi meron pong iba activity na reading naman, yung iba group work, etc. etc. So when they are required to do something like that, yes, they're given a separate sheet of paper. Dito po medyo nag-iiba-iba yan kasi minsan walang ibinibigay na paper yung eskwelahan kasi hindi naman kasama yan sa budget. No? But in general, they're able to use the learner module as the reference point. And then most of the other activities really should be inside the classroom na.
So, ang ibig sabihin ho ba neto, hindi na ho kayo magpa-purchase ng published textbooks? Because, di ba, you have that moratorium that na hindi ho ata bawal mag-publish muna. I think yun yung DepEd Order Number 44, Moratorium on the Procurement of Supplementary Reading, Reference, and Other Instructional Materials. I think, in fact, I wrote you a letter last June, and then you said you're still reviewing yung policy and guidelines when it comes to publishing.
Yung pong budget na binibigay nyo sa amin is good for all dapat na learner modules, bawat estudyante at sa teachers. No? So, yung pong DepEd Order 44 na moratorium is really with respect to yung additional enrichment. No? So, halimbawa, mga example?
Good morning. Examples of supplementary materials, for example, would be posters that teachers can put on the wall, or the alphabet cards, or flashcards, or some of them would be trade books, storybooks. Some of them would be activity sheets. Marami pong range yung materials. Some that are included in supplementary materials. These are different from textbooks or from learner modules that we are using. If I can just answer further, we are presently devising the finalizing actually the call for textbooks from private providers or publishers for grades 5 and 6, and for at the moment the core curriculum of grades 11 and 12. So we should be able to release that in a month or so.
Kasi Yusek Ocampo, di ba,
Yes.
it's been a year that you implemented this moratorium. And under this moratorium, it also prohibits LGUs from helping, di ba, yung mga schools from purchasing additional supplementary materials.
Ako po yung nag-ano ng order na yan. To be very honest, it's really because when I go around our divisions, ito po yung isang napakalaking source ng corruption. Kasi nagkaroon po kami ng dialogue with some of the publishers. Ang sabi ko po sa kanila, alam mo nyo, kaya nagkakaroon ng malaking corruption sa area na yan. Kasi po, pag titignan namin yung mga if we review the price per book that have been bought in the past 5 years, ang lalaki po, ang tataas yung mga presyo nun,
Well,
Sino ho ba nagpa-presyo ng textbooks? Does it come from the publisher or does it come from DepEd? Because if, di ba, you review yung mga textbooks and I think they pay you for that review, right?
meron no kaming parang kung sa parang suggested retail price. Pero hindi ho naman actually dun yung source of corruption kasi yun, very transparent yan. Yung talagang naging source of corruption, ito po, pag pumunta kayo dun sa, on the grassroots, yung mga ex-deals with yung mga, ang tawag ko nila dyan, minsan rebate, merong ililibre sa trip abroad, o kaya may hotel. So, and I hear a lot of this. Siyempre, ang hirap pong kumuha ng actual mga data or affidavit. So sabi ko po sa mga publishers, wala akong problema na you earn a little. But I asked them, I actually challenged them, write me guidelines on how you will police yourselves and ensure that there will be no more. Sabi ko po, siguraduhin nyo sa akin na hindi kayo magbibigay ng kahit anong regalo sa division superintendent, sa regional director, or kahit sino sa DepEd. No? Yun lang ang hinihintay ko sa kanila. Sabi ko, assure me na gagawa kayo ng inyong sariling rules that all of you will sign off and say, okay, lahat ng mga magsusupply ng supplementary reading materials will agree to this. Tapos kung may complaint ako, sabi ko, I need a group na kayo mismo ang maglilinis. So, yun lang po yung ano. In fact, we had a series of meetings with them. I think they're working on a set of guidelines.
Siguro, Secretary Armin, on the part of DepEd, wala rin ho ba kayong in-issue na guidelines dun sa mga supervisors or teachers na parang you cannot accept any rebate, you cannot accept X deals? Kasi, di ba, it works both ways eh. Even if they police their own ranks, pero kung dun on the other side naman yung humihingi, di ba? So, meron ho ba kayong in-institute na ganong reform sa DepEd?
Since 2010 po, at saka alam po yan ng mga regional directors at superintendent, yan po yung aking regular homily sa kanila tuwing ano. But given that, I realized that hindi siya pwedeng DepEd ano lang. And that's why I really met and dialogued with the publishers and told them they have to do their own share.
That's covered by the Anti-Graft Law 2, RA 3019 and 6713, which prohibits the receiving of any types or kinds of gifts by virtue of the position they're holding.
Senator Binay, ano po, actually, they're writing as we speak that set of guidelines. Sabi ko, kailangan we should work in tandem.
Kasi, Secretary, we also don't want to die. Ayaw din naman ho natin patayin yung industriya ng pagpapublish ng libro. Kasi I think, apparently, ang biggest market nila is the public school. So, we are also killing an industry if kung hindi natin to ima-manage.
In fact, tama po yun. In fact, sabi ko sa kanila, kailangan ng mga estudyante yung materials nila. Ang problema ho actually, hindi naman silang lahat. Meron hong ilan dyan na gusto mas malaki, and then they exert pressure on DepEd officials. Sabi ko, police your own rank. Tulungan tayo para masigurado natin na kung ano yung pondo ng gobyerno, kahit local government, hindi masasayang. And they're responding po. They're responding.
May na-blacklist na ho ba kayo from the publishers?
Wala po.
Wala pa.
Ang problema ho namin talaga is ang daming complaints, but when I challenge them, sige, bigyan mo ko ng dokumento, talagang wala naman lumalabas. So, I'm asking the publishers, you have to help us to monitor that.
Sige pa. Tapos kanina din you mentioned yung severely wasted and wasted. You mentioned 500,000 na ho yung severely wasted. Ilan na ho yung dun sa wasted naman?
Yung ano po, mga 130,000 yung wasted. Kaya yung budget na hinihingi po namin for 2015 ay for 630,000 students na may feeding program. Ano lang ho ito, yung sa aming, ito'y with FNRI, yung sa Nutrition Institute. Ang amin pong menu is for parang 16 pesos per student for 120 days. Ito po yung programang crafted together to ensure that the intervention
No,
is successful.
2013, how much was the budget for this
Mga
project?
1 billion po.
2014 yan, right?
Sorry.
2013.
2013 was very small for feeding. We had just around 80 million, if I remember correctly, Senator. It was in 2014 that we had a significant increase in the school feeding program of budget of DepEd to 1 billion pesos. Now it's 1.
Meron na naman ho na-graduate from being severely wasted to, I guess, wasted. And then-
Actually, yung programa ho namin, usually mga 80, if not 90%. If you do yung correct formula po, yung sabi po ni Senator Pia na FNRI has this nutrition package. And if you do it for 120 days, ano po siya, very significant yung kanyang, most of them move from severely wasted to normal.
To wasted.
Hindi po, normal.
Sec, is it 120 or 180?
Ang programa po for nutrition is 120, minimum of 120
Minimum
days.
of 120 days.
Secretary, what's the difference between severely wasted and wasted? And what is normal?
Yung ang ano po sasambang ating mga doktor dito. Hindi ba akong gumamit ng mga nandito sa upuan?
Is it by weight? Age to weight ratio?
It's age weight ratio. Ito po. It's the ratio of the height, weight, and then the age. Ayun pala. Ito po yung so hindi ko pa rin ito naintindihan. Sino?
No. This is undernourished, normal, and overnourished. I think you're using severely wasted, wasted, and normal. So, alin dito?
Yung undernourished, Your Honor, includes both severely and wasted.
Yes, but what's the question is, what's the
Ah.
difference between severely wasted and wasted? Pag teenager na ho, alam ko yung ibig sabihin ng wasted. Pero pag
Sa height and weight ratio with body,
Your Honor,
parang body mass
give you
index.
Siguro
Medical
Secretary Armin, what is the range? Kunwari, dapat ba ganito yung, let's say, kunwari from 1 to 5, severely wasted ka, pag 6 to 10, wasted ka lang, and then normal is 12 to, wala ho ba kayong ganong range?
Actually, may table po yan, hindi ko lang dala ngayon.
give us the standard, Sec, kindly submit that to us and to the office of Senator Nancy as well.
And siguro, Secretary Armin, can I also get the listing of yung areas or kung kaya ho per ano ba to, per center or per school na may ganito ho kayong proyekto? Do you have that data?
Yes, Your Honor. Pero, Senator Cheese, if I could just correct myself. Yung sabi ko pala kanina na ang severely wasted namin is over 533,000. Yung talagang wasted is 1.4 million.
Which one is worst? Severely.
Yung pong severely.
So, severely, wasted,
Tapos wasted, tas
and
normal.
then normal.
So-
1.4 million ho yung severely wasted and then wasted.
Yung wasted po.
Wasted.
1.4 yung
And
wasted.
then severely,
Yun ang 530,000. Yung hinihingi po pala naming budget for 2015 will cover all of the severely wasted and only 7% of the wasted. Kasi yung programa po ng DepEd, meron po kaming mga canteens sa bawat eskwelahan. Yung pala yung gagawa ng programa for the other severely wasted. Part of the program is in partnership with the PTA, and then they proceeds yung sa canteen po, go to the program for the wasted. Pero medyo kulang pa rin pa ho yung budget. But we'll make do at least for next year, and then review the program, and then maybe come up with better numbers for the 2016 budget.
What was the figure for 2013 ng severely wasted?
Ang more or less the same numbers po. Mga
So-
500,000 na severely wasted, and then 1.4 million sa wasted.
So the question of Senator Nancy, may nag-graduate po ba dyan? If it's roughly the same number, so yung dating normal, magiging severely wasted, yung dating wasted, magiging severely wasted, assuming people are graduating from the program.
Generally, yes, except, Senator, it's too early for us to have the figures because yung 2013 budget, essentially, wala naman talaga kaming programa because it's a very small budget. It's
But
only
for-
this year.
But for 2014, if the program is only for 120 days, you're talking for 3 months? Sorry,
Usually, ano po yan, hanggang
120
December.
days,
Mga 4 months.
4 months. No, 4 months.
20 days a month pala yung school days.
At 20 days a month. So 6 months. So it started in June, presumably.
Actually, it started ho nung July, and then some started in August, no? Because we had to do the weighing and the measurement.
Okay.
So usually it will, let's say for example, it will start ng June, mag-e-end ho yan ng December.
Tama.
And then pero posible din ho na next school year, it's the same students. Kasi after ng December, hindi na naman sila kasama dun sa, wala na yung programa na papakainin sila.
Yung, ito po yung matagal ng programa ang nakita po namin, yung, ang lean months for the rural families, mostly it's sa rural families, ito po yung non-harvest months. Talagang yung tamang-tama, eksakto lang po siya hanggang December. Pagdating po ng January, usually hanggang March, they have enough na ano. So, yung tanong po ni Senator Escudero na after they graduate, may pailan-ilan po dyan na the next year, you still include in the program. But some of them are able to catch up at hindi na bumabalik sa program.
Actually, I raised that question, Sec, because if you're using 2013, 2014 data, what's your basis in asking for 1.4 billion to cover 100% of severely wasted if as of today, we do not have data how many the severely wasted actually is, who will graduate or not graduate from the program? And what's your basis in saying you will only hit 7% of the wasted when we don't even have that figure yet? I mean, if indeed the program works, dapat either ma-wipe out itong severely wasted, if indeed it works, sana 6 months, may harvest sila first quarter of next year, enough yun to tide them over, presumably this number should go down. So this figure is hypothetical as of now.
Yes, Your Honor, pero based on historical, yung mako-cover po ng programa would be around 630,000. So, meron pa po tayong mga wasted na hindi mako-cover. So, yung amin pong hiningi for next year is really based on a projection.
It's a projection.
Yeah, projection those that are not covered in this year's program, kailangan pang bigyan
But
ng
I
intervention.
presume that the cost per unit of feeding the severely wasted is more expensive than the cost per unit of feeding the wasted. So if your basis is pupunta na tayo sa wasted, you can actually benefit more.
Pero
How does that
actually, ang programa po kasi dun sa feeding is really 16 pesos per student for 120 days. And hindi na po kami nag-iiba. This is based on the FNRI nutrition, yung kanilang diet. Pareho po yung feeding program for wasted and severely wasted.
Ilang grades ho yung nako-cover ng ganitong program?
Essentially, elementary po.
At the whole elementary. So hindi ko kayo namimili
Kasama
na
yung
grade 1, 2, 3 lang. So pwedeng up to grade 7, grade 6.
Grade 6 po.
Grade 6. Tapos yung data nyo ho came, study done by DepEd?
This
or was
is
it
actually
done by
naka-embed
DSWD?
po. Naka-embed po sa aming every year meron po kaming weighing in at yung during the nutrition months June of every year. So that's the basis. Actually may pangalan po to and first school.
In terms of attendance naman, ano yung attendance rate ng mga severely wasted?
Alam mo nyo, yung this is the other added fruit of the program. Kasi ito yung mga gutom ho, minsan nag-absent. Pero minsan, kasi alam nila na may feeding program, the students and the parents actually encourage them, pumunta ka na doon, at least doon may pagkain. So, aside from just the nutritional value, yung pong kanilang attendance in school really shoots up. Minsan, they go to school for the feeding more than just the learning.
Tapos, di ba may listing kayo ng CCT beneficiaries because one of the requirements is dapat to enrolled yung mga anak nila. Is it safe to assume that pag yung anak is severely wasted or wasted, most of them are part of the CCT program?
Yes, pero we have not done a correlation study on that. We could try to do that this year, Your Honor.
Sige, sige, I'll just, if you can just submit to yung mga breakdown ho nung severely wasted and wasted. You mentioned ho kanina yung sa PAGCOR that you, every year you get funds from PAGCOR. Tama ho ba?
Actually, parang one time lang ho yata yan. So, ang plano namin, if the program works, especially sa ECCD, then maybe we will ask that this be included in the GAA for 2016.
So yung one time ho nyo was 2014. So 2013 you didn't get any funds from...
I'm talking of the ECCD
ECCD.
program ng PAGCOR. Opo.
Can I get a listing ho nung kung ano ho yung mga centers that were constructed out of the 480 million? So siguro list ho nung refurbished, yung from the ground up, tapos siguro ho yung list din na operation lang yung pinagastusan.
We will send you the data from ECCD, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you. Tapos, Secretary Armin, nung, kasi ang DepEd ho was beneficiary of DAP, and at the same time, may mga funds din ho na nakuha from your agency na napunta ho sa DAP. Did you write a letter to Secretary Abad? Kasi si Secretary Abaya ho had a letter telling DBM na ito yung mga projects na pwede nyong gamitin as savings. Meron ho din ba kayong sulat na ginawang ganun? From 2010, 2011, 2012, and 2013.
Okay. Yung listahan na yan po, most of them actually, the two biggest DAP items for DepEd, Your Honor, is really for the saan nga yung sa benefits, MPBF.
The GSIS settlement,
How much
Your
is
Honor.
that? The GSIS.
Siguro umpisahan ho natin dun sa, because you had funds that were used for DAP.
The two biggest, Your Honor, would be from yung GSIS payments premium ng DepEd. Now we had this MOA with GSIS so that we will be able to regularize everything, and they're getting the figures now. And the second one is on
The second biggest is the partial funding for the PSIP2 project. But your question, Senator, is with not the DAP appropriation or allotment given to DepEd, but the savings that
Savings of
that-
DepEd that
that-
was used for DAP.
well, what was withdrawn from us was 580 million pesos, Your Honor.
Hindi ho,
And you received-
based on my computation, it is 4 billion
No,
441.
that was what was given to us.
No, it was because si Secretary Abado submitted to me a listing. 4 billion ho yung budget ng DepEd na napunta sa DAP. Ay, actually hindi lang
Yeah.
DAP. It was part of the 237 billion savings that was raised for 3 years. I don't know kung baka hindi
We
ko
will
kayo
look at
aware.
Yeah, because some of these, like for example, if these are MPBF items, these are not released to us anymore, Your Honor.
I
But they
guess,
have
for
been-
example, DepEd nung 2011, lump sum funds sa MOE ho is 311 million, capital outlay 62 million, and then DepEd, locally funded project, 779 million, 917 for MOE, and then 333 million for capital outlay.
Yeah, we will look at that data, Your Honor, and reconcile. The figure that I mentioned earlier was just the central office released appropriation that was withdrawn. Now, there could have been allotments released to the regions which may be included on that list, and maybe unreleased obligations, but we would be happy to look at that list, Your Honor, and reconcile with our own figures.
Secretary, siguro I'll provide you a copy para you can also give me a list kung ano ho yung mga projects, especially ho dun sa capital outlay, kung ano ho yung mga hindi natuloy because it was withdrawn or used as savings. Tapos, at the same time, naging beneficiary din ho kayo ng DAP. I think you got 4 billion din ho. Tama ho ba?
Yan yung GSIS at saka yung sa
Magkano ho yung na-download
PPP.
na amount for DAP?
GSIS, parang we'll give you, Your Honor, the exact figures.
Wait, kaso lang ho yung GSIS na sinasabi nyo, premium for DepEd, hindi ho sa inyo nagamit sa DBM ho.
That's correct, Your Honor. That's why when we submitted our list, because we requested DBM, when the data was requested from us by COA and Supreme Court also, and we requested from DBM, it did not appear in our DAP release because it was
Under DBM.
released to DBM, but for the benefit of DepEd, because that was used to really released to DBM for DBM to settle with GSIS.
But you had projects na LGUs, under LGUs, other various local projects. DepEd OSEC, financial assistance for SB, Revitalize Alternative Learning System, Division of Nueva Ecija, educational assistance, purchase of IT equipment.
Yes, there were a few releases to our division offices for some of these projects, Your Honor. The big release, however, to central office was the 4 billion that was released to fund the PSIP Phase 2 program of DepEd.
Kaso based din ho sa submitted by Secretary Abad. Parang yung funding ho nyo sa DAP, nakakoncentrate ho sa 3 provinces. Paki-check na lang ho with your documents. It was Nueva Ecija, Pangasinan, and Batangas. What was the criteria used? Na ito ho yung napili nyong provinces for your DAP funding.
Was DepEd the proponent of these projects?
When these are released to division offices, we just received these for information, Your Honor. But central office was not the one that proposed these projects.
So hindi ho kayo yung nag-identify. So sino ho nag-identify? Na para doon mapunta yung pondo.
I'm guessing, Your Honor, but I'll have to look at the list again. These are mostly initiatives from the divisions and various stakeholders. So minsan ito yung mga request po na hindi napopondohan noong national budget for that year. So I think
So pwede yung mayor or legislators who could have requested
yes,
it.
opo. In general, sa DepEd do nangyayari niyan yung
Pero wala ko kayong say para sabihan na, sandali, kasi nabigyan na namin to ng pondo, so bakit kailangan natin bigyan
Actually,
ulit?
Senator Nancy, we are in receipt of a new list coming from Secretary Abad which names the proponents of all of these projects. Kung sino nag-propose o sino nang hingi. And most of them, I will confirm, are legislators. We'll give you a copy. In fact, we're in the process of photocopying them dahil makapal-kapal eh.
Thank you, sir. Tapos I guess moving on, ang DepEd ho is part of BUB. Tama? Were you part of this project
meron
noong
po.
2013?
Opo. Magkano ang budget?
Magkano ho siya ng 2013?
Parang wala ho kami sa 2013.
Ah,
Parang
wala.
2014 kami Meron ba? Just check.
Siguro 2013, 2014, how much was used? And what kind of projects ho yung in-implement under this
I'll
project?
answer the what kinds of projects. Yung sistema po sa DepEd, yung aming budget is generally focused on what we present to Congress, di ba? Yung classrooms, teachers, Watson, computers, at saka mga laboratories. No? Pag,
Kayo ho ba nag-provide ng menu?
Di po. Well, we have a short list menu based on based on the requests of the schools and the principals. Kasi yung budget po na pinupunta ng national, hindi po yan covered. Ito po yung mga reklamo sa amin. Kailangan namin ng riprap o kaya ng covered court o kaya library o kaya faculty room, no? Or in some instances, Your Honor, for example, a dormitory for students who really live away. Ang standard answer po namin in the past was, naku, wala sa budget ng DepEd yan. No? Noong pong isulong itong bottom-up budgeting, ang sabi ko po, then let the schools now identify what are the critical areas that are not in the menu of the national budget. So, yan po yung ito po yung short list of the different projects na sabi ko, ito pwede kasi wala naman yan doon sa atin. At saka, in most instances, we review that, Your Honor. They're allowed to identify it and then we validate it based on the need.
So paano ho yung proseso? Yung mga teachers ho will write the mayor?
Parang
and then si mayor ho will give it to DepEd and then DepEd will review it?
Ano po siya, barangay based. It's the aggregation of the barangay council. May kasama po diyan teachers and principals.
So hindi daw kailangan ng letter from the mayor.
Kasi po yung sa proseso niyan, then the mayor collects it and then kasi ang ano namin by municipality. So the mayor also kasi ang tendency po niyan bawat barangay may kanya-kanya. So it passes through a sieve in the municipal council or town hall meeting, then they identify ano yung mas priority among, let's say, 20 nag-submit, 5 lang yung pwede mapondohan, then they go through that process. So, ang mayor po ultimately yung nagpapadala sa amin.
And I think pagdating ho sa inyo, sinasala niyo pa ho ba o hindi
Yung,
na?
Opo. Kasi yung check ko namin is, una-una kung kailangan ba talaga yan. Kung halimbawa, dormitory, then we check on, may estudyante ba who live 10 kilometers away? And number 2, wala ba talaga yan sa DepEd menu? Kasi kung wala sa DepEd menu, then pwede po talagang...
So pag ganun ho yung scenario, you give it back to the mayor na hindi pwede itong proyekto
Opo,
na to kasi
opo.
parang double
Yes.
ano na tayo funding. May data na ho din sa 2013.
Basahin nyo na lang, Yusek.
No, 2015 is 1.5 billion. 2014 was approximately the same amount, but we're trying to retrieve the 2013 data.
Dun ho sa 2015 budget niya for GPB, how much was allotted for Apayao?
For Apayao, we have a total of 8.8 million, Your Honor, for 2015.
And how many students po dito?
We'll give you the data, Your Honor. Yeah, but she's asking about the students. We have base. We'll just retrieve the number of students, Your Honor.
And then Ifugao din ho, how much was the budget? And how many students din po? And then Batanes, pagkano ho yung budget nyo? And ilan din ho yung number of students?
Well, based on the list, I have with me right
I guess
now.
pakisama na rin ho yung Camiguin. So Camiguin, Batanes, Ifugao, Apayao, and
Yeah,
Abra.
we'll give you this breakdown by province, Your Honor. But Batanes is not, we don't have GPB for Batanes. For
Wait, pa-
Ifugao, we also don't have for Ifugao. And you were asking about
Pacheco,
Camiguin is
because-
3.55 million for Camiguin, Your Honor. As you know, the LGU executives have the choice as to, together with their stakeholders, of course, have the choice as to the projects that they would like to implement and which implementing
Saan ho
agency.
wala? Batanes and Batanes and Ifugao? Pwede double check ho, kasi based on the data that I got, there's 1.5 for Ifugao and there's 2.4 for Batanes.
Is that for 2015, Your Honor?
Yes.
We will check, Your Honor.
We'll give you, Your Honor, our printout.
Sige pa. And then, can I get lang ho yung data yung how many students dun ho sa mga provinces?
We will provide the data, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sec, please bear with me. This is the first time we'll be doing this, but please follow the exercise with me since budget na pinag-usapan. May dalawa akong calculator na kaya 2 trillion. So please bear with me. PS allocation for 2015 is 255 billion. Tama po ba? 255.2 billion. I can address it to either Yusek Varela or Secretary Luistro. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, how many teachers were you supposed to hire in 2014 that we funded? 33,000. Can you give me the exact number, sir?
33,191. 194, sorry.
33,194. And for 2015, 39,066.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And the average salary of a teacher is 22,000 something, right?
Plus benefits, yes.
All in.
Yeah.
Meaning if you compute PS for a teacher per month, it'll amount to how much? Either per month or per year. Can you give me the figure, sir?
Per year na lang, times 13.
That would be more or less correct, Your Honor, for the teacher one, the total cost. If you include
My computation is 22,985 approximately, but can you give me a more accurate figure, sir? All in.
Monthly. So teacher one.
yeah, it's 20,974
For teacher one.
for teacher one
Per month.
per month.
Eh, puro teacher one naman to, di ba?
For the new hires, yes.
New hire.
Yes.
All 39,066 teacher one to. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
All 33,194 for 2014 teacher one din to.
That's correct.
Right? So, all in na to, 20,000 a month, so times 13. Would that be correct?
Yes, except
Or
that-
not exactly?
Not exactly, because there are other costs, like if you're looking at, although that will be in another budget line, Your Honor, the GSIS government share, for example.
So that's
would not be part of that, yeah.
251,688 per month plus their 13th month pay. Magkano ba base? Ang 13th month pay is based on base pay, di ba? Basic pay. How much is the basic pay, sir?
18,549.
18,549. So, correct me if my math is correct. 20,974 times 12 plus 18,549, which is equivalent to the 13th month pay. Would that be an accurate computation of The annual compensation of a teacher. Teacher 1.
Yeah, without the PIB and cash allowance, there are a few other items.
Nasa ibang item naman po yun, di ba? Yung cash allowance, nasa
Correct.
ibang item naman yun. Panchok
Yes.
yun eh.
Yeah.
So a total of 270, 237.
That's correct, Your Honor, more or less, yes.
So how much is the budget to hire 39,066 teachers for 2015?
Around 9.4 billion pesos, Your Honor.
9.4?
Yes.
Where did that figure come from, sir?
That is computed with the assumption that they will be hired starting April.
Kulang pa rin. I computed if they will be hired January, it's going to be 10.5 billion starting January.
Yeah, so if it's April, Your Honor, then it will be
So I divided it by I multiplied by 0.75.
9 months. Yeah, 9 months, Your Honor.
If I multiply it by 0.75 because I remove 1 quarter, it will be 7.9. Again, where did the 9.4 come from? No, I just asked for the budget for the 39,066. Hindi pa ako kasama yung principal doon.
Yeah.
Hindi pa kasama yung 1,500 na principal doon.
It also includes, Your Honor, the way, because the 9.3 billion, 9.39 billion that we included in the MPBF, that also includes the RLIP cost for these teachers.
So the assumption is they will all be hired beginning April 1,
Yes, Your Honor.
right? Now, let's go back to 2014. Of the 33,194 teachers, it's September 17. How many have we actually hired?
Maybe ask Jess.
86%. 27,048.
Can we have the breakdown of the monthly rate at which you have been hiring them? I presume 86% was not reached April 1.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Do you have the breakdown?
We don't have that right now. And
But you can compute that, of course. The point I'm driving at, Sec, is nangihinayang ko as in the previous budget dun sa fiscal space. I can double your feeding program if I remove it from this figure depending on the rate at which you can hire them. If I move funds, I won't take it out from DepEd. I'll still put it in a program of DepEd. Pero sayang lang yung space, kesa magiging saving siya, babalik sa DBM, babato na naman sa inyo, wala. Diretso na lang. You have it, sir? 2014. Yusek. I presume per calendar day may nadadagdag na number, di ba? I mean, as they are processed. Sec, centralized naman yung database natin ng teachers, di ba?
Kinukulate po namin, no.
Not yet?
They do it in the divisions and then they send us, so may time lag ho yan.
So, from the time when is a teacher hired? No,
Before this-
when can you say that she's hired and she's entitled to begin receiving a salary?
when all the documents are submitted and received by the regional DBM, then they're included in the budget, and then officially they get their they start processing their ATM card. So may another lag time po uli yun.
So, hanggat hindi niya let's say, April, sinabit yung mga dokumento. By end of April, nalagay sa DBM. By the first week of May, nabigyan ng ATM. Retroactive ba yun to April 1 or from the
yes.
time that natanggap lang niya yung ATM?
Hindi, retroactive po on the day of hiring. So actually, may lag time lang yung salary niya, but retroactive po.
So when is the day of hiring?
By division, usually around during the summer months.
No, sir, meaning when is that date? When is that day? When the teacher can say, I am hired and I'm entitled to begin receiving salary from this date, although I might not receive it soon, probably in 2 months' time.
That's determined, Your Honor, by the division and the principal. So it could be April 1, it could be May 1.
So when is that, sir? Meaning, when exactly does that happen? That a person can say, I've been hired by government to be a teacher.
May ano yan,
There is what we call a first day of service that is defined by the superintendent and given to the teacher. And typically that, in our case, for example, if you look at 2014, that happened in the bulk of the hirings that we mentioned earlier happened in May and June, Your Honor.
Hiring meaning na nagsimula
First day
sila.
of service, yes.
First day of service, and that's when they're entitled to be paid. May.
Yes. May or June, depends on when that is defined for them. And for some, those who were hired earlier, the documents are there. And first day of service is designated to be May, then they may report and start receiving salary in May.
So the assumption of your computation of 389 billion is April.
April, Your Honor.
So meron pang additional savings. So tama yun, sayang.
Sayang kasi, di ba? Kung May kayo nagsa-start,
Correct.
I'll get 1/12 of that and add it somewhere else. And based on your data, if you hire, kung may 15% pa kayo hindi na-hire, I can still compute 6 months salary beginning in April, May, June, July, August, September, 5 months. 5 months salary, and I can still get that amount multiplied by 15% of 33,194.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Di ba, sayang?
Yes, yes.
We can use that fiscal space and we can discuss in the course before we reach plenary saan natin ma-reallocate. Can you give us, sir, a computation ng reasonable projected dates of hire? Because instead of being demand-driven, it can be, rather, instead of being supply-driven, it can be demand-driven. We can dictate na i-hire natin X% on this date, i-hire natin X% on this date, and come up with an exact amount that you can use and remove the remaining balance for other projects. Diba?
Yes, Your Honor, we could work on that.
Kayo na po ang magbigay sa amin ng figure because you know better. Please, sir. Now, sa basic education facilities po tayo. I saw your presentation earlier in the number of classrooms. You intend to construct 31,728 new classrooms. Is that correct, sir?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor, for 2015.
For the amount of 44,660 million.
Correct.
Correct, sir?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Magkano na po ang per unit cost ng building, ng classroom rather? Sa ngayon, if I remember correctly, it was 650 last year.
In
Yun yung
2013,
in
for
13,
the
right?
single story, but that's not the average, Mr. Chairman. That is for the single story standard cost of DepEd.
So,
But for 2015, the planning assumption that we made is that there are about 11,000 classrooms of the 31,000. 11,000 of those are for our K-10 requirements, while 20,000 is for the senior high school requirements. Now, for the K-10 requirements, we used a planning assumption of an average cost of 1.25 million pesos per classroom. For
alin
the,
to? Yung
the
11,000.
11,000, Your Honor. For the senior high school, we used an average for planning purposes of 1.5 million pesos. And that is coming, Your Honor, from the increased actual cost being used now by DepEd, where for single-story buildings from the previous 650,000 or so, our cost right now is an average, if you look at the different building types, 1 classroom, 2 classroom, 3, 4, 5, simple average of that is now 916,000. And that is the result of the revision in the design that was worked on by DepEd and DPWH post Yolanda. And essentially that involves really further strengthening the building and improving the roofing system that is used for our single-story building. So that's 916,000.
That's being
For-
followed this year.
That's being followed for 2014 implementation and will also be used for 2015. For the two-story average, our average is 1,379,000. For three-story buildings, we're using an average cost of 1,749,000. And for four-story buildings, it's 1,862,000. And essentially
classroom.
driven per classroom, essentially driven by the additional structural reinforcement. In the case of the single-story buildings, for example, in the past, we did not employ or we did not put in tie beams underground, but we use tie beams only for two-story and up buildings, but for the redesign, tie beams are now required for even for single-story buildings. The bars that are used for the beams and columns have been increased. Additional bars and bigger bars are now being specified. And the columns are slightly bigger. And then the roofing system also has been changed to the use of the truss
Sir-
system. So those are the major design changes that led to the increase in the cost.
How many classrooms were you supposed to construct in 2014?
When the budget was presented, Your Honor,
When the budget was
when the
presented?
budget was presented, we indicated 43,000. But these were
But
not
this was based on the assumption of 650,
lower-
if I
well,
if I
not
remember.
650,
750, I think.
800 average
800.
cost.
So ini-implement nyo na 1.2.
But 1 million for the
Sorry,
senior-
900 rather.
We did the same, Your Honor. We distinguished between the K-10 classrooms and the senior high school classrooms also in the 2014 budget. And the corresponding figures were 800 for the K-10 classrooms and 1 million for the senior high school classrooms. And obviously those have changed or increased significantly as a result of the redesign that was done in early 2014.
So,
we
in
have
lieu
to
of the
adjust.
redesign, how many classrooms are you or were you supposed to construct in 2014? It's no longer 43.
It will be less.
And how many would that be?
26,000, Your Honor.
Nearly half.
Yeah.
26,000. This was supposed to answer for the backlog, right?
Yes.
This was to
Well,
answer for the backlog, para zero backlog tayo.
Part of the-
Di ba? This is not yet for the senior high school, wala pa ito ron.
No. There was an original provision of 15,000 for senior high school. And because of the redesign and the higher cost assumptions now for the senior high school, that will go down to a little less than 10,000, Your Honor.
Actually, my question, Yusek, is when the president delivered his SONA and said zero backlog, it was on the assumption that we would be able to catch up based on our projections. And one of those projections would be 43,000 classrooms will be built in 2014. You're not even there yet. You haven't even built 43, you haven't even built 26,000 based on the adjusted figure. So, if it all of a sudden went down to 26,000 from 43,000 as projected supposedly in 2014, is it still fair to say that zero backlog tayo as of today?
Sir, yung 66,800 is the 2010 backlog.
Actually, I know what,
Yeah.
I just wanted you to, I wanted
No,
it to
no.
come from you, Sec.
Yeah. Pero sir, every year talagang kailangan magtayo tayo because there are four major programs. One is senior high school. Yon, kasado na po yan.
Agree, Sec. Actually,
The other three are really one. Every year we need to replace classrooms that are 50, 40-year-old. No? So that's one program.
thank you for pointing that out, Sec. I'll cut you short. Actually, I know exactly what you're talking about. We started at 154,000 before you sat. When you sat, it was cut by less than half because of certain plans you implemented, certain surveys you conducted, na ito lang naman talaga yung kulang. Right? So, we were at a figure of 66,800 in 2010, at the end of 2010. So, ito yung backlog na hinahabol natin. Kasama sa paghahabol natin yung 43,000, di ba? So, if you only constructed 26 in 2014 as the last mile of the 66,800, so hindi pa tayo zero backlog sa 66,800.
Hindi, tapos na po tayo doon. Yung the other two, Your Honor, yung every year, there are schools that we need to construct new classrooms because of the increase in enrollment.
I'll go there, Sec.
Iba
But-
pong
so when
programa
did we
yan.
when did we reach the zero backlog for the 2010 backlog?
Nung December 2013, Your Honor.
December 2013. On a yearly basis, I presume you have projections too. Ilang classrooms ang dapat, tanggalin mo na muna yung K-12, yung dagdag doon. Ilang classrooms ang dapat nating i-construct o i-repair para ma-maintain mo yung zero backlog? I mean,
They're getting the figures, but what I remember, Your Honor, is we should be replacing every year siguro mga from 15 to 20,000 classrooms na so that these are the ones that are already substandard eh. So if we have ang computation ko noon, sir, if we have an inventory of around 500,000 classrooms, then the government must continue to replace 20,000 every year para in 20 years time every new classroom is standard na.
you're talking about 4%.
Yan, para mga ganyan po. Tapos, then the only other remaining gap that we need to address are the surges, I call them surges in enrollment. Kasi yung mga schools natin, medyo nag-stabilize na yung enrollment. No? And our figures will bear that out. Except yung mga areas na kung saan may
High migration.
migration yan at saka yung congestion yun na lang po yung dalawa but in highly congested areas yung amin pong programa is wag na magtayo doon sa sikip na campus, maghanap na lang tayo ng bagong campus kasi that's the better option. So roughly if you replace every year 20,000 of the old classrooms in the makeshift and then add siguro another 10,000. If you do 30,000 every year, I think we should be okay, Your Honor. We'll
Now-
give you the exact figures.
Please, sir. Now, of the 26,000 adjusted figure for 2014, how many have actually been finished?
Yung for the 2014 budget, sir, 10,000, around 10,000 of those.
So less than half?
Yes, Your Honor.
What seems to be the reason for the delay?
Talagang na-delay ho kami dito dahil yung standards like the tie beams took a while before we could negotiate that with DPWH. There was also a long discussion in the cabinet on the yung tie beams po para sa category A ng earthquake na. Yung sa roofing medyo tumagal yan dahil the earlier proposal from DPWH was to do 300 kilometers per hour wind velocity. But when we did the recomputation and in consultation with the OST, sabi ni Pangulo, ang 250 is good enough. So we had to recalibrate that. Kaya medyo nagano.
If these are the standards we're going to use, can you submit to us a document that basically says how you arrived at these standards? Because I'll give you an example, sir. 300, biglang sabi ni Pinoy, 250 na lang. Saan po hinugot yun? Why not 230? Why not 270? If we make it 230, by how many millions can we save? If we make it 200, magkano rin yung matitipid natin? If we make it 300, magkano rin yung lalabas na cost? I mean, just the deductive process at how you arrived at these standards. Alin yung tinipid? Alin yung pwede na? Can you submit that to us, sir?
Yes, Your
Meaning-
Honor, we will work with DPWH because most of the documents are there.
Not really the minutes, but just how these standards were arrived at, and what were the factors that you considered in arriving at certain standards? Kung ito na yung susundin po natin na build better, di ba? Build better tayo. So, yung remaining balance of about 16,000 have been bidded out. It's just simply being constructed.
That 10,000, Your Honor, is for 9,600 of those would be for senior high schools, and those are in the process of being finalized, the list for that. So that has not been bid out yet. We hope to finalize that list before
Wait,
the end of the year.
10,000 has been finished? Tama, Sek? Sabi mo?
Yes, sir, pero yon ay yung past year's budget.
So hindi pa ito yung
Hindi pa.
26,000?
A few.
So you're talking 2013.
Yes, yung mga
Sir,
hindi natapos ng 23.
Kung 2013 budget yan, ngayon pa lang ini-implement, edi hindi tayo zero nung end ng 2013. Hindi tayo zero backlog nung end of 2013. Zero backlog tayo in funding the requirement, pero hindi pa tayo zero backlog in the actual classrooms constructed if you're still constructing 2013 classrooms funded in that budget.
Sir, we actually are because can you show the 66,800 is based on actual turnover, not all from government funds. Kaya actually
may labas nga pala.
meron tayong mga donors, TAGCOR, etc. So actually sir, yung pinoponda ng national pagdadagdag natin yung kasi may mga LGU initiatives din po. We should really be okay.
So let's talk of the 26,000. Ilan na po yung na-implement as of now? 9,600, the list is still being finalized? So may balance ka pang...
No,
I don't know.
that's for senior high school. Well, what
No,
has
I
been...
don't mind, Yusek. For whatever purpose, we're talking of the 26,000 classrooms that you're supposed to construct in 2014.
11,800
Ang nagawa.
ang to be identified, Your Honor. That's the list that's
Remaining.
remaining.
So,
All the rest are 15,000 ongoing construction or procurement.
Yes.
hindi nga eh. So, may balance ka pang 14,200 na hindi pa na-identify? Sir?
Mga 11,000 na lang, sir.
No, sir. 26,000 minus 11,800 that have been identified.
May ongoing construction kasi, sir.
Mm. Let me rephrase my question, sir. Of the 26,000 you're supposed to construct in 2014, ilan na ang tapos? Ilan na ang ginagawa? Ilan yung i-identify pa lang at hindi pa nabibid?
Sir, our figures are ongoing construction.
How many?
How many? 14,201.
Or procurement.
And then ongoing procurement.
No, that's it already.
Ay, kasama na pala yan. Ongoing construction and procurement is 14,201. And then the rest are those that are identified for...
Meaning bidded out. At the very
Yes.
least, bidded out.
Apo.
At whatever stage of the construction, mahirap na alamin yan. Pero 14,000 have been bidded out. So approximately 11,000. Ilan na yung balance nun?
Mga 11, no?
Yeah, 96, yes.
So 11,799 is being identified, tama? 11,800.
Yes, sir. Of which 9,600 are for senior high schools. And our target is to identify them by November.
Sir, sa 39,000, sorry. Sa 31,000 na i-construct natin, ilan po dito ang identified na? As we speak, or zero?
We have a listing of we call it initial listing, Your Honor, because this is based on our data sheet on needs. So we do the enrollment minus the inventory and then the remaining needs. So may listahan po kami niyan. We have not validated it because our engineers will have to go to the site and look at the soil testing and the buildable space. So yun lang po yung kulang dyan sa isa. But we have the initial list of those schools.
But sir, can't we be 1 year ahead instead of 1 year late? Very much like what DPWH is doing now for its roads. They conduct all bidding procedures short of award the year before so that they hit the ground running by January. And you take advantage of the summer months, in fact, because it'll take you about 2 to 3 months to conduct procurement. At least you hit the ground running by summer, which is perfect for DepEd para pagdating ng pasukan, June, presumably malapit na matapos yung eskwelahan o tapos na yung eskwelahan. Instead of right now, it's actually a year late. So can't we do the identification process much earlier? For example, for 2015, if you're identifying classrooms to be built for 2014, for the 2014 budget in November of this year, I cannot imagine when you will finish identification for the 2015 budget. And clearly, the summer months will again pass, and the students would have to wait for another year. So can't that be hastened?
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, next year, kaya sinabi namin November. Sir, yung November na yan, for the senior high schools, we're really a year and a half early. Yung sa other, para 2016, yung the others, we should be able to identify that by around the same time, November, so that as you
So by
suggested.
the time we reach plenary,
Wag
Kayo
naman,
naman, Sec.
November
yung
naman.
lahat,
Yung November po.
Nung nagko-committee deliberations tayo last year, you were able to identify about 33% at that time, and you gave me the list, if I remember correctly. The remaining balance to be identified, but throw that all out the window because you had to recalibrate and recalculate the costings per school building, which is the cost of the delay, and we perfectly understand that. But for 2015, we should be able to do it faster and better.
We should have the list, Your Honor. We will just ang medyo problematic po kami yung identifying on a per school. Ang gagawin po namin sa senior high school, we will identify a short list of where the senior high schools will be built, but we may need to do more ground consultation because may kasama po yung access to the different yung areas eh. So, we will be able to give a short list, but that may not be the definitive listing.
Yet.
Baka meron pong madidelist, pero wala na po siguro madadagdag. Those are just the parameters that we're working on for submission before plenary.
Please, sir, kindly give us that. Now, if I may proceed with your budget, do you have a copy of your budget? Not your presentation. You have it? Give him a copy. I'm talking about volume 3 of the NEP. Para we're on the same page. Yusek, ito. Page 9. Let's go to page 9 so that you know what we're talking about. Again, I asked for your leave to bear with me. Page 9. Asek, page 9. The first page of DepEd is page 1. You're the first department in volume 3. Nasser. Okay? Say natin. General Management and Supervision. Sa programs, under programs po ito. Sorry sinadya yata ang paguluhin yung budget para hindi namin maintindihan but let's try to understand it. General Management and Supervision. Capital outlay of 515 million. What exactly is this, sir?
This is primarily budget for the construction and rehabilitation of central office, regional offices, and division offices.
Ang NCR nyo is 475 million. So does that mean to say that the 475 million will be spent for national and division offices in NCR?
Yeah. This is really in central office, Your Honor, to be distributed to the regions as the needs are determined.
So right now we do not know what the needs are.
We have the needs identified by the regions, but we will still have to finalize based on plans presented by them and justification. So there are adjustments that will need to be made. So once these are finalized, Your Honor, then the amounts will be downloaded to the regions and divisions.
So where did the amount 515 come from? If you do not know yet what you will finally fund, you do not know yet which ones you will finally approve, where did the figure, why not 520? Why not 500? Why 515? Again, bear with me, Yusek. I'm doing this for all the major departments I'm handling. Please, sir. Why not 516?
Yes.
Sir, yung programa namin sa division offices tsaka regions, when we came in, we identified yung marami kasi hindi natapos na mga unfinished buildings and division offices. So, what we did in the past years was to make sure that all regional offices are done and finished with at wala nang kulang. Ngayon, yung nasa budget po are all the remaining division offices na hindi pa natapos.
Pero hindi pa daw alam, Sec, kung alin do you have a listing for this?
Meron po kami listing. Ang nine-negotiate ngayon kasi, depending on the amount, sabi namin, this particular amount should cover most, but not all. So meron pa po siyang remaining. We're just prioritizing which of the division offices ang masasama. Nagkaroon lang po yan ng additional, kasi meron pong mga bagong divisions na we were basing it on the old unfinished division offices. Nagkaroon po ng mga bagong city, so nadagdagan siya. So sabi namin, depending on pagka pwede pang magamit yung isang old division office, wag muna yan, unahin muna natin yung bagong tayo. So, but generally, the numbers are there, yun.
When you say the numbers are there, sir, meaning may listahan ba kayo? May breakdown ba kayo nitong 515? Or is it a ceiling that you are working with for this purpose?
It's a ceiling, Your Honor, based on the old list prior to the creation of new divisions.
A ceiling you imposed on yourselves or a ceiling imposed by DBM?
Hindi, sa amin po yan. But that, Your Honor, is based on our very initial estimates of construction costs. Kasi yung iba po ditong offices, hindi pa ho kami naka-soil testing. So we were basing this on the figures ang tawag po namin dyan, based on normal situations. No? Ngayon, kaya pagka after the soil testing, minsan, our original listing becomes less because we don't want to do unfinished anymore. So we try to finish per project, and then we tell the divisions that are not included in the year's budget, don't worry, in the 2016 kasama naman kayo. So ganun ho namin inaayos yung numbers.
In light of some fiscal space we might be able to get and gather, can you nevertheless submit to us the initial listing of the costings and a detailed enumeration of the areas and or offices that will be constructed or you intend to construct, whether for this year or for next year?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Our divisions and regions will be very happy.
Now, sir, still on this particular program, General Management and Supervision, I'll choose an area randomly. Page 13. Isaac. Pasay City, Division Proper. 4,051,000. See it? Sir, saan po mapupunta to? When you say MOE, 4,051,000, does this have a breakdown?
Well, Your Honor, this is really just the maintenance and operating expenses for
I know,
the
sir.
division office itself of Pasay. So the requirements of the schools for their MOE are not included here.
So
So this
where-
is really just for the running of the division office.
So where will that go? Sir?
It
what-
will go to
What will it be used to pay for?
utilities for the division office, office supplies, transportation for some of their, when they attend training activities, when they do supervision work, maintenance of vehicles, and also communications.
Sir, do you have a breakdown of that?
We have
The
a-
estimate is down to the last 1,000 sek eh. I mean,
kasi po, yung
it looks nice, it seems itemized, but it's actually a lump sum. Unless you can give me a list of where it will be spent based on a budget that they prepared for next year.
the way, Your Honor, yung MOE works is we have a list of allowable expenses, expense items. Tapos we do a ratio of the how big the division is based on the number of schools and students. So parang sa schools ganun din po 'yon, no?
So there's a total budget, and based on a ratio and proportion of the number of students, given the total that you've allocated for this purpose, you divide it accordingly.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But sir, I thought zero-based budgeting tayo. Di ba? Akala ko, I thought when this budget was presented and handled last year and the previous years, zero-based, my understanding was, when it was explained to us by DBM, was, let's start from scratch. No assumptions. Let's start from the bottom. Ito ang kailangan. Hindi yung, ito yung total, ratio and proportion, i-divide natin, yun ang mapupunta sa inyo.
Sir, generally the budget is based on that. Pero may mga items, sir, na talagang you base it on the number of students, eh, di ba? So, for example, the principal will not be able to foresee that they need to repair this classroom. So, at least that part of the budget will have to be you cannot really itemize it up to that level, no?
Understood, sir. But take, for example, ERA. ERA is computed based on a formula. Population, land area, and there's what you call equal sharing. It's not only based on ratio and proportion of the population. In other words, what I'm asking, sir, is, ito ba yung kailangan ng division ninyo sa Pasay, o ito ba yung binibigay lang ninyo sa kanila? That's basically my question. Since if you divide up the pie based on population, that's what gets to them. But that's not necessarily what they need to pay for the minimum, the bare minimum. Wala mo na yung unforeseen na repairs. So is that how it is? Or is this exactly what they need to pay for all the utilities and to function normally and ordinarily as a division?
I am sure they
That
will
it is
answer.
not.
It's not.
That it is not.
So kulang, in fact, if I go around the divisions and the regional offices, palagi po sabihin lang, kulang yung kanilang MOE.
Kulang po talaga, kahit naman saan po talaga eh. So, isn't there a way that we can actually compute zero-based nga po that true blue zero-based budgeting, na ano ba yung kailangan nyo? Pero ito lang yung kaya namin. So, let's mix and match it. Let's try to correlate the data together and find a way to do it. Kasi baka mamaya may mga divisions, sir, na by tradition, yun ang binibigay nyo, even your predecessor, you don't even question it anymore. Yan na yung dati, alam naman bawasan ko pa. Di ba? So you just continue on with that bad practice without really knowing how much do you even have that data? How much do they actually need? Again, it's not supply driven what we can give them. It should be demand driven. What do they need? Do we have a data on that, even for one division? Just to be able, not for this budget proceedings, but perhaps for the next sec, can you give us that data? Kahit one division per region, let's just see how far apart they are.
Kaya po yun. In fact, in the last 2 years, yung aming hinihingi sa division, Your Honor, would also be, what are their other sources of funding? Kasi ito po yung the other maraming, for example, if you come from NCR or the big cities, meron po yung ibang sustento that comes from the local government, no? Minsan hindi po yan nasasama doon sa kanilang programa. So, in the past 2 years, we've been asking them to
Ano yun?
submit even that, including donations, kasi minsan meron mga donors. So, that will give us a better picture of the real needs as well as sources other than just national government funds.
And it would be nice to have that data too, sir.
We'll work on the target of at least one division per
One
region.
per region, sir.
Sige po.
Give it to us. Again, sir, bear with me. Iisa-isahin ko talaga to at hihimayin ko to. Page 98, Yusek. Physical fitness and school sports competitions including palarong pambansa. 52 million for PS. I presume these are for positions in DepEd that are performing this function. 4.5 million capital outlay. Saan po mapupunta to?
These are primarily for sports equipment for the conduct of the Palarong Pambansa itself.
So you're talking what?
Um,
Baseball, bat, volleyball, basically
those
balls.
types, yes.
Hindi, yung bat, gamit na nila. Yung sapatos, dala na nila. Yung court, nandun na. Yung track, nandun na. So you're talking basically balls.
Balls, nets, pagka ping-pong po, may racket, may mats.
Pero hindi ho ba pag may nag-host, correct me if I'm wrong ha, pinagawa nila yung bagong sports complex nila, ito yung counterpart ng DepEd for that.
Yes,
Apo,
Your
apo.
Honor. It's
That's
really
true.
very small in relation to the facilities that are being used.
So we don't know yet how and where this will be spent dahil baka yung sunod na mag-host, kompleto siya.
Meron po
Well, we
kaming
know-
listahan, actually based on experience. Most of these, Your Honor, are yung parang almost consumables na
Balls, basically. Bola.
Pagkatapos ng laro, we either donate it to the schools that host it.
Give it to us, sir, please, the breakdown.
Yes, we will.
Yes, sir.
Now, the MOE of
Palaro,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. Okay. When you
Diesel demo.
when you end on Palaro, I just have one comment.
368,265,000, of which 366 goes to central office and 2.180 million goes to the Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports. Meno, where will this 368 million go to? What will it be spent on? This MOE, saan po gagastusin yan?
These are subsidies that would be given to the regional offices for the Palaro, including the pre-Palaro activities that they need to undertake, Your Honor.
You have a breakdown of this, sir?
We will give you the breakdown.
By division and region, Your Honor. Based on the past years.
May I ask, again, the amount is down to the last 6,000 pesos. 368 million, sorry, 5,000. 265,000. Saan ho hinugot yun? Why not just 370 million for all I care, insofar as putting up an amount is concerned? I mean, try to understand where I'm coming from, Sec. I mean, it all sounds nice and good na ganun ka-eksakto, but in reality, it's not. And we can actually shave off or save a couple of million here, a couple of million there, and come up with another program or add funds for another program. Let's say kung hindi naman talaga eksakto to, gawin na lang natin 365 dagdagan natin yung capital outlay ng palaro and make it about 7 million. I mean, help us out here. I don't want to continue with the previous practice of just because that's. In fact, if I look at the previous year's budget, most likely this is roughly the same. Again, carried over. So again,
We'll provide you the details, Your Honor, but typically you would have certain assumptions there on the per capita cost, for example, because that's a big driver of this budget, no? The per capita cost. Now, of course, we make assumptions on the number of athletes and the size of the delegation that would be attending, and based on some historical records. So that's why you will see the butal amounts because of these numbers, Your Honor. But I agree with you that you can always
Science
round
based.
up, round down, but there is a detailed computation of this, and then we will provide that to you, Your Honor.
but again, just for the record, sir, this is again supply driven, not demand driven. This is what you give them, and not necessarily what they exactly need to be able to participate at the level that they want to in the palaro.
Para po yan sa MOOE, kasi yung palaro, depending on the city, municipality, and provincial support, and or
Yeah.
private donors, nagbabago-bago po yan.
Hindi lang, sir. Kung next year malayo yung palaro kung nasaan kami ngayon, at nagkataong malaki yung delegation namin, we need a bigger share of the pie than what we got in the previous year.
That's correct, Your Honor, and we do vary. We do vary those amounts after the host of the Palaro is determined, and we give different amounts for delegations coming from the nearby regions compared to those who come from farther regions.
So next year, saan po yung palaro?
We don't know yet, Your Honor. It will be in Mindanao, but we don't know exactly where.
When will it be determined?
October, November this year.
Who are vying for it?
Around 5 regions in Mindanao have indicated. Are there formal?
Are these regions or provinces?
Provinces,
Usually
but
provinces
representing-
vie for it, right?
Correct. And usually the regions or the provinces in a region coalesce around a lead province that will vie for it.
So again, by the time we
But
go
there
to
could
plenary.
be competition even within. Theoretically, there could be competition within a region.
So kung wala pa tayong date, wala pa tayong lugar, you don't know how to apportion this yet.
We have amounts, but this will. Mandy, diba?
Ang mangyayari po niyan, so at the beginning of the year, pag hindi pa determined yung exact site ng palaro host, it's equally divided using that formula. Once it's determined, then you do the readjustment. Sabihin namin dun sa, division ka, malapit ka lang naman, babawasan ka namin. Ito yung kulang, ilalagay dun sa,
So sir,
yun
two
po yung
things.
adjustment.
Utilization of this MOE in allocating it per region, right? Per regional office in 2014, and number 2, the formula that you're using in allocating it, let's say unequal sharing in number of athletes to be sent, kindly submit that to us.
Yes, Your Honor.
Senator Pia?
Quick question. I recall this issue coming up a few months ago, and I didn't have the time to raise it with you, but there were questions and concerns raised by tournament managers in the Palaro about their professional fee being cut from 15,000 to something like 4,500. So can you just respond to that? Because as you all very well know, these are my constituents, the coaches, the sports professional, the athletes. So what happened there?
Ang nangyari po dito, nagkaroon ng review of whether DepEd is allowed to give, ang question po was, is there double compensation? Na if some of these teachers, coaches who serve in the Palaro are at the same time DepEd employed, hindi ba yan double compensation if we give them? So we were able to work out an arrangement, and what we did was to actually disaggregate, kasi pag nagpunta naman po sila sa Palaro, minsan 2 weeks eh. So we're saying, okay, may part dyan na, yes, it's part of their salary, but obviously, there are items there, expenses, that are really over and above what we are paying them and can be justified as not a double pay. So medyo na-delay lang po yan, but we had to work out, syempre with a little debate with the COA representatives.
Did they end up getting the same amount they used to in the past, the 15,000, or did they have to settle for the 4,500?
Mga depending po kung ano yung kanilang assignment, it range yung original ano nila the range would range from around 10 to 15 per head. Nakakuha po sila mga 5. 4 to 5.
Well, that's the whole
Yeah,
problem. They
yeah.
were not happy with the 4 to 5.
Yes. And we were not happy too, except that we had to comply with the
But I'll get back to these people. But from what I know, they were representatives of the sports associations. So whether they and that's very different from being DepEd employees. And the specific report I have is that they were representatives of the individual NSA. So that's different. So how was that addressed?
medyo ano kami diyan conflicted because mahirap kung magbibigay kami ng ibang rates doon sa non-DepEd at saka sa DepEd. So ito yung we just made a judgment call.
But the training is very different. I'm not putting down any DepEd employee, not at all. But in general, if you're a technical official or a professional with the National Sports Association, your level of expertise would be very different in terms of not just coaching, but also in technically managing the sport. So there is a difference.
Well, we could review it, Your Honor.
I
Pero-
request that you do, only
Opo.
because I do feel that sports has, the whole country stops. Not just recently not just in the beginning a few years ago, it was just when Manny Pacquiao played. Now, even when there's UAAP volleyball, the country, a big chunk of the country stops to watch that. That's a big deal, no? I mean, we're really going in the direction of really giving these athletes the support that they need. So we also have to support the people behind them, the coaches, the technical expertise. They cannot play without these people. So I do request, Secretary, that we look into it, and within a reasonable time, can you get back to me? And I don't want, because this change, I also understand, was relayed to these people a few days before, and so it was very insulting to them, no? So in the same way that you don't have details a few months before the next palaro, I can imagine that this is nothing that concerns us at this point. But I would like, this can be resolved since you already know the question, you already know the problem. Can we look into this and try to find a solution sooner than later? I don't think we can leave it at that.
Yes, ma'am. But maybe you can also help us with the auditing agency. Kasi actually the major questions arose from them.
By all means, by all means. What do you need me to do? That answer is very simple. I mean, you just have to give them the right answers. There's a very big difference between a physical education major and a technical expertise who provide for the expertise needed in different races.
In fact, Your Honor, baka sa 2015 budget, baka may qualifier there that says it is allowed or something, because then the question is not raised
Mr.
anymore.
Chair, can you help us with that? I'm that's a finance matter. I don't know how to address that, but
We will look into it, and we will coordinate with COA on the matter if their problem is with COA
okay.
on treating them differently.
Yeah, for those who provide the more technical expertise.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Siguro on that
Senator.
point, yung sinet aside yung bang budget as compensation, was that based on a 4,500?
Based on the original.
The 10. So pwede pa ho, may allowance pa kayo?
it's there. Paano? Yeah.
Okay, so there's still that chance that they can still get yung 10 to 15. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can I go back, Isek? Sorry. Dun sa page 9 natin kanina, yung 6 on general management and supervision, 6 billion 22 million on PS. Sino-sino po itong mga taong to na pinapasweldo natin? Who are they?
These would be central office personnel,
Naka-breakdown din per school.
Yes, but
Who are these people?
But for the school, this would only be for the non-teaching, Your Honor. So,
No,
the
PS to,
structure, yes, the structure of the budget is that they have different category for general administration and support, and then for programs.
So who are they exactly? I mean,
In the schools, for example, the principal. At the support staff, we have some bookkeepers and supply officers in the schools.
although
And
not
then
all have,
the division
right?
officers, all of the division office staff, all of the central office staff, and
Staff. Staff lang to.
no,
Hindi.
personnel, Your Honor.
It's broken down by high school and by...
That's right, for high schools. So it really depends on the unit that you're looking at.
Actually, puro high
For-
school lang eh.
Well, central office is also here. Part of the 6 billion, Your Honor, this is the sum for not just the schools, but it includes central office and.
Sir, the listing is only high schools. Walang elementary schools. Why is that?
That's because we don't have items for elementary schools.
That's what I was about to say.
Correct. Yeah.
So, yung central office na 662 million, sino po yung sinusweldohan natin dito? Sino po itong 662 million na ito na pinapasahod natin?
NCR, Your Honor, the 662
Yes.
for central office.
Central office, 128 million.
Yeah, that's all of us, Your Honor, except for the bureaus.
That's all of you.
Except for the bureaus, because they have
Again, just want to
Yeah.
clarify. So, dito galing yung sweldo ninyong lahat sa
Yes.
central office.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, secretary, ASEC, USEC.
Yeah.
Now,
But bureaus are not.
itong pinag-uusapan natin kanina, physical fitness and school sports competitions, including palarong pambansa, you have a PS of 52,772,000, broken down by regional office. Sinong sinusweldohan po natin dito?
We have staff in the regional office who are specifically dedicated to handle sports, Your Honor.
Meaning they're not PE teachers, they're not, they're staff in the regional office that do basically what?
They
Pag
are,
may palaro na, I presume busy sila, but
well, they also supervise the school sports programs in the school. So it's not just palaro. That's not.
no, but this is for the region. How can they actually go to each school?
Essentially, mga trainers po yan the whole year round.
So these are trainers.
Coaches. Many of them are NSA accredited and have training. So they do training.
Can I pick a placer randomly? Choose one. Region 8. Can you show us sino yung mga ano yung mga positions na sinuswelduhan nung 3.158 million? Meaning who exactly are these people? You don't have to answer now. Submit it to us, sir. We just want to
Okay, we will
ano
submit
yun,
it.
spot
do
check,
that.
find out where exactly does it go? Now, page 99, Development and Implementation of Education Projects. Educational Project Development and Implementation Task Force. You have an MOE of 30,730,000. Saan po gagastusin to? Please,
ask Jess to
yeah,
join
yeah.
us.
Same question as before, meaning does this have a detailed breakdown? Is this a lump sum? Do we know exactly where it's going to go?
Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Please
Good
proceed.
morning, Your Honor. Yeah, there's a breakdown of the MOE. We can do that by projects now. We have,
Actually, yun ang problema ko sa MOE ng gobyerno eh. Hindi talaga sa MOE in the true sense of the word na there are projects embedded in it that are regularly performed by the agency which is placed under MOE. Example, sir. Saan po, anong example ng mga pagbabayaran natin itong 30,730,000? Yes, sir.
Sorry, Your Honor.
It's okay, sir.
For the MOE under the EDPITAF, the Educational Development Projects Implementing Task Force, this includes the payment for supplies and materials, utility expenses, other professional services like janitorial, security,
Mhm.
and the others. No?
What does it basically do, sir? What does it mean? What does it do?
The educational development projects, the agency, sir.
Oh, itong task force, is this an office?
This is an officer by virtue of a presidential decree created in the 70s, no? And supposed to manage foreign assisted projects.
Ang function niya is to manage foreign assisted projects.
That's correct. Now, this will no longer exist because of the rationalization plan. It will be included.
I was about to go there.
That's right. Your Honor.
Mabubura na itong opisinang to.
That's correct. It will now become the project management service, Your Honor.
Right now, what is it doing?
Right now, we're winding down some of the foreign assisted projects like the World Bank, the OS8 project.
So doon po napupunta to.
Yes.
Can you give us the breakdown, sir?
Yes, sir. We will provide you with the breakdown.
Next, National Assessment Systems for Basic Education. An MOE of 438,496,000. What is this, sir?
That's largely for the assessment, the national assessment test that we conduct, and there are a few of those. The NAT, of course, is a big part of that. We have other tests like the NCAE, the National Career Assessment Examination. We have PEPT, which is the placement test.
You have a breakdown for how you divide up the
Yes,
438?
We have a breakdown. For
And
that.
presumably this goes to the printing of
It goes
test
to,
questions, proctors,
yes,
honoraria.
Yeah, small allowance for
traveling
proctors,
expenses,
traveling
logistics,
expenses, logistics,
to deliver the test papers to wherever.
printing and processing of test results.
Give it to us, sir.
Yes.
Second, next, National Science Teaching Instrumentation. Sir, what is this and where will the 17,877,000 go?
Ito po yung sa ating science kits. Science and math kits. So
Mamimigay po tayo.
to the
Pero
This amount rather is just for the operations.
ito for the operations of the office
For
that
people and
identify the
office in Cebu.
equipment. Ito pa rin po yung ito rin yung they do ang tawag doon, they develop mga instruments that can be used in schools and then which we later bid out for mass production. So for example, mga manipulative toys and learning materials.
So there is an office in Cebu, Your Honor. So the MOE is really for the running of that office.
but the PS is in NCR.
Well, because they are considered as a central office unit, except that they are basically
Except
in
that they
Cebu.
work in Cebu.
This was an office that was given to the Philippine government through a German government grant, Your Honor. So we have a
Theoretically-
facility there. In
Agree,
Cebu.
sir, but theoretically, you mean to say their salaries are sent to them? Kung ATM yan, the ATM card nila nandun, but I mean,
They have DBM releases in Cebu, Your Honor, for that office. They're not just part of the regional office of Cebu. They're not considered. As
they're
part-
separate.
Yeah, and they're therefore part of central office in the DepEd organization.
Planning and Management Information Systems. 68,397,000. Saan pupunta po? Yusek, your excuse. Suggest whoever can answer. Planning and Management Information Systems. A PS of 25,619 and an MOE of 68,397,000. Saan po pupunta to? At ano pong ginagawa ng opisinang to? Yes,
Yeah, good morning again, Your Honor. It's not an office. It's really a budget distributed to the three divisions under the Office of Planning Service, namely the Research and Statistics Division, the Planning Programming Division, and the program. And,
So the PS here is for the employees. If it's not an office, it's the employees of what? Of certain divisions. May PS eh.
That's correct, Your Honor. These are the staff of within the Office of Planning Service. And then the MOE is really meant for the activities of the three divisions.
Actually, sir, dito ako naguguluhan talaga sa presentation ng DBM ng budget eh. It's not an office, but it's allocated a PS. I mean, I don't get that. Nung ginawang by MFO to, sa totoo lang, mas gumulo eh. Mas simple sana kung ilan ba empleyado ng DepEd, ilan ba dyan ng teacher, ilan ba dyan ng ganito, ilan ang administrative non-teaching personnel, ilan ang, di ba? So it's not an office, so ito in-unbundle nila yung employees performing this function at dito bubunutin yung salary nila. Ito yung legislative authorization and cover for that.
Siguro, Mr. Chair, siguro mas maganda yung term planning personnel than planning office. Parang ganun ho lumalabas, di ba?
I really can... Sige po, tuloy natin.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Before you
Senator
go on to
Bia?
another point, I need to leave. Can I just make a statement?
Yes, please.
When the DepEd submits to me the budget for ECCD, I will propose to the committee if there are any savings in some area. If I believe, which I offhand, without even knowing how it's dispersed, but just by the amount, we need to put in more funds for early child development because there's no question that it is important. So for me to also understand that, may I ask the office to present to me how many early childhood specialists do we have, and what is the wish list? How many should we have? So that over the years we can try to approach that in the same way we've tried to fill the gaps on classrooms, on teachers, on textbook. We should also fill this gap for early childhood. And then the chair already knows of we share the same concern on grade 11 to 12 and the gaps that we've discussed in separate meetings. The representatives of DepEd had asked that we continue the hearings in September because of figures. So whatever is needed for the budget, I will just refer to the records, and then we'll continue in our own hearings. And then on your next, on the next, after DepEd, we have the National Museum. I have to step out, but I just also want to put on record that the cultural and arts agencies, their budget is very important this year and moving forward, because finally the general public has become aware of their importance. And so in the investigations we've been having that involve the Torre de Manila, the Army Navy Club, and the archaeological sites of under Santa Ana, the role of the National Museum is very important. So I just want to put that on record, Mr. Chair, so that even before you put this on the floor, I'll speak to you privately on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Pia. We have another setting actually, if in case you'll be...
For this hearing? Ah, okay, good. That's good to know. Okay.
Sir, proceeding. Support for basic education research. I'm still on page 99. No PS, MOE of 46,364,000. First is, but wala pong PS?
Hindi po, kung po yan, kaya walang pong PS yan, that is really meant to fund some researches undertaken by the divisions. No? It's more of action research to inform policy.
So, the 46 million MOE is to fund the research?
That's correct, Your Honor.
So this will be by way of honoraria to whoever will conduct the research?
Not only the honoraria, it's really the activities, the workshop to have to be undertaken and the like, no?
Submit that to us, sir, too. Human resource development for teaching, teaching-related, non-teaching, and other personnel. MOE of 2,480,865,000. I will cite one example. For Calapan City, on page 101, 533,000. Saan po mapupunta to?
Sir, the HRTD funds, some of them are stationed or kept within the central office for training that's conducted for teachers and
Central Office,
non-teachers.
2.05 billion.
But the ones for the divisions are driven by their needs. So they have their own downloaded funds for their own training needs.
So this is training.
Teacher training, supervision training, sometimes non-academic training.
Dito ba papasok yung pag-train ng teachers for 11 and 12?
This is
four
for
and-
grades for the coming school year. But no, that brother is in the central office amount. Oo.
Senator Pia and I were talking, di ba wala na tayong graduate sa high school coming from public high schools in 2015? Right?
16, sir.
2016. So, ang isang option, hindi ba gamitin yung mga classrooms or rooms ng state colleges or tertiary schools, private or public, and even their teachers. But
sir.
they're not equipped to actually teach these subjects, and they would have to be trained. Dito rin po ba yan?
Wala pa po yan dyan. Sir, the teachers from higher education who will handle core courses in the senior high school will be very familiar with that content because the core courses for senior high school were developed in collaboration with the CHED.
Pero 1:1 ba yun? Because you need more core subject teachers compared to the available teachers you might have in some state colleges and universities, for example, focusing on purely agriculture.
Agriculture wouldn't be a core course, sir. There are 15 core courses.
No, what I'm saying is some state colleges, yun lang ang focus talaga nila. So how can that be part of their competence? If it's not part of the core, all the more.
Sir, if they offer bachelor's degrees, then they would have core courses. Kasi-
Sila lang ang pwede.
Oh, kunyari yung mga English 1, mga ganon, those courses or Science, Technology and Society, those courses, they would have those courses.
Itong training na nasa NCR, central office, binabato rin to sa region, yung MOE funds for training? Nasa NCR, central office rather.
The K-12 training.
The K-12 for grades 4 and 10 for the coming summer. For this coming summer, we send it down.
Dina-download din?
Apo. But we also identify who's arriving for the training.
Mhm. Page 105, acquisition, improvement, survey, and titling of school sites. Yusek Muit, I guess you're the one on top of this. Capital outlay of 265 million. What is this for, sir?
Well, sir, the proposal is that that's going to be used for the acquisition of school sites in areas where there is a need to set up new schools or a need to expand new schools. The old proposal, Your Honor, was that we will only use the amounts given in the previous years. One, for the downloading to DNR for the titling, survey and titling. And secondly, in case there is a final decision against DepEd to pay for the amount adjudged by the court. But the proposal, Your Honor, for the coming year is that additional funds be given so that DepEd can also acquire schools, aside from those that we are forced to pay for because of court judgments.
If you're forced to pay for it, shouldn't it more properly belong or be placed under MOE, not CO? If you're required to pay by virtue of a judgment.
Well, I'm not too sure, Your Honor, if that can be considered MOE.
Secondly, my experience is, at least in my district, in our province, actually wala pa kaming biniling lupa para sa school site eh. It's always donated, but it's a question of documentation. So, this will be, ang problema ko kasi, is like, pag may pondo ang DepEd to buy land, people will start selling it. I mean, common logic. Parang kalye, pag alam nila nagbabayad ng DPWH and without realizing, tataas yung valor ng lupa nila pag dinaanan ng kalye, they'll start selling it too. So what's the wisdom behind it?
Sir, we agree with you, except, ano ba? This was a request from some divisions.
Chair would like to acknowledge the presence of Senator Legarda. The request of some divisions.
Kasi may mga divisions po na may contested land. In some instances maliliit lang, no, mga 1 million ganyan. So they request sana may pondo yung DepEd. So there was some pressure to put in.
Pero kung sana may pondo, Sec, masyado naman yatang malaki yung 265 sa sana may pondo. I mean, you can augment this fund.
Well,
You can
actually,
put a house.
well, actually, Your Honor, actually maliit po yun eh. Because in some areas, especially here in NCR, mataas po yung land valuation. So, that can just take up siguro 4 school sites pag sa NCR.
But if we expropriate, sir, we don't even have to pay next year.
Well, that's ano po.
I mean,
Actually, that's, well, not really DepEd's own thinking, but yun po, that was something na ni-request lang po.
Mr.
so
Chair.
does this have a breakdown, or is this a lump sum amount na wala pa?
It's a lump sum amount, Your Honor.
But again, sir, why 265? I mean, why not 250 para sarado? Alam mo yun? But hindi 200? Saan galing yung indicative? It's an indicative amount.
If you will look at the 2014 budget, Senator, this item was provided with a budget of 65 million, and that is the one that was described by Yusek Muyot earlier for situations where there is an adverse judgment against DepEd that mandates us not to purchase the existing school site. So it's a 200 million, which is additional that we identified for situations where a new school site will have to be acquired by DepEd. If there are for situations where we have to either expand an existing school or to open a new campus and there are no there is no land available
But-
or provide or given to DepEd
But
by
there
other
is no
stakeholders.
actual case yet. There is no actual need yet. Na as of now, alam namin may kailangan kaming biling lupa at this amount, worth 200 million.
Meron po kaming requests, spending requests.
And how much would those requests
Ay.
total?
Wala po kaming valuation at this
Because
stage.
kung bahay lang, Sec, pwede naman natin gawa ng bahay eh. That can be augmented later on. Again, nangihinayang ako dun sa fiscal space kung wala pa naman talaga kayong, di ba, paglalagyan. So might as well make the most out of the fiscal space. Come back to us for a proposal, sir, on that.
Okay.
Balikan nyo na lang kami on that.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Binay?
I think, Yusek Maret, you mentioned for 2014 na may budget to kayong 65 million. Nagamit nyo na ho ba to? Naubos nyo na ho ba to?
Hindi po nagamit kasi po dinala po namin sa Supreme Court yung mga natalo po kaming kaso. So, yun, inappeal pa po namin.
Sayang nga yung space, di ba?
Sayang.
Okay, kasi parang nabigyan nga ako kayo ng pondo ng 65 million, hindi nyo ho nagamit. Tapos for 2015, you'll be given more than the 65 million. So chances are, baka hindi nyo na naman huli
To put you on notice, Yusek, Secretary, I'm saying this with all the other departments. Given the DAP decision of the Supreme Court and the limitations on the use of savings, we're trying to make the most out of it because otherwise, you would have to come back to Congress and ask for a supplemental budget before you can utilize certain amounts that you will not be able to use. For your information as well, we are headed towards a definition of savings along these lines. Ang savings lang talaga, in accordance with the Supreme Court decision, yung sukle dun sa contracted amount na nilagay nyo sa budget, let's say 10 million, ang lowest bid is 9 million, may sukli kayong 1 million, savings yan, inyo yan, gamitin nyo to augment any item in your budget. Any project that was not implemented because of a fortuitous event, unforeseen event, totally beyond your control, again, sa inyo pa rin yan. But if it is within your control, if you are to be blamed for it, if it is because of your action that money was not used, you cannot consider that as savings, and you have to come back to Congress before you can utilize that amount. And this would fall under that. If you appeal the decision, if you question the ruling, and therefore you're not yet obliged to pay, you cannot use the amounts of money saved from this item without coming back to Congress. That's why we're trying to maximize the fiscal space. On your part, it's also better, instead of DBM doing the acceleration of the disbursement, you can do the acceleration of the disbursement yourselves by simply allocating the amounts that you need and will be able to use, and the rest, let's put it on some other projects still within your agency. Hindi naman namin tatanggalin sa inyo pero let's just reallocate it. Thank you, sir. I'm on page 105, sir. Implementation of the grant of cash allowance, hardship pay, equivalent record forms, rather, conversion to master teacher, reclassification of positions, and payment of step increments. MOE of 681,024. Yung hardship allowance po ba nasa MOE o nasa PS?
Yes.
Nasa PS.
So this is the 1,000 peso per teacher, the MOE.
Hindi po, yung hardship allowance, hindi ba? That's equivalent to hardship pay rather. That's equivalent to 25%, if I'm not mistaken?
Maximum of, yes.
Maximum of.
Yes.
So you standardized it, yung hardship pay is flat rate?
No, Your Honor, it depends on the circumstances of the teachers.
Now, does this take into account the new hires? Not yet. Kasi
Not
yung mga
yet.
new hire yung teacher 1, if you compute it, may hardship pay yan. Di ba? I mean, certain circumstances, walang tubig, walang public transportation, if I remember the bill correctly, because I was one of the authors of that bill. Taken into account na ba yun dito? Or for the first year, wala munang tatanggaping hardship pay yung bagong hire?
Well, if the funds would allow and they are entitled to the hardship pay, they would also be given the,
No, sir.
the hardship allowance. Because sometimes they could be moving to a school and another teacher there would no longer be entitled because that teacher will be moved to a...
Stays there.
No, let's say a teacher who used to receive it, an old teacher who used to receive it would now be transferred to the central school, then that teacher would no longer be entitled. So the new teacher whom you will assign to the hardship post may receive that allowance, Your Honor.
So, palit lang.
Palit lang.
So, hindi na madadagdagan to? Madadagdagan to kasi kulangan tayo ng teacher sa classroom, di ba? So, dun sa hardship post, I'm sure kulang ang teacher dun. Di ba? So, it's not a question of replacement. Madadagdagan yung teacher dun. So, my question is, kasama na ba sa proposed budget ninyo yung additional teachers to the tune of 39,000 na i-hire nyo who might be positioned in a hardship post? Senator Legarda, just to finish the point. Yes, sir. Kasama na ba siya? Hindi.
There is no specific allocation for the new teachers.
So it's
Your
safe
Honor.
to say that they will receive it when you propose the budget for 2016 pa after 1 year. I mean, because... Hindi, kung may kapalit, maliwanag yun.
Yes.
But clearly nga, kulang yung teacher natin eh. And usually, it's in these areas. Usually, it's in these areas. So most likely, madadagdagan po talaga yun.
Tama po, sir. Pero hindi masyado marami, but yes, kulang po yan.
We don't have a computation. A rough computation.
We'll have to...
Because PS is precise, unlike MOE. MOE, you have room to move. But with PS, it has to attach to a particular person or item.
The numbers come in usually, Your Honor, after they're hired, and then there's a request because of the distance. So usually it's a little delayed.
So it's safe to assume nga na 2016 pa yung mga hire natin by
Tama.
2015.
Tama po, sir.
I mean, a fair statement to make. Senator Legarda, ma'am, sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. No, since you mentioned about hardship allowance, would that be synonymous to hazard pay? That's one and the same? Or is there a different hazard pay for the teachers who are in areas where there are no bridges, where they have to cross streams and rivers, in areas which have internal conflicts? Or would that be the same provision, Mr. Chairman?
Well, for teachers, they are the same, Your Honor, but we have a separate hazard pay for public health workers.
The hardship allowance that you mentioned will cover teachers in places which are difficult to reach. That's what you call hardship allowance. what are the of the number of teachers that we are providing for under PS, how much or what percentage of those would avail of the hardship allowance?
We'll give you we'll just get the data, Your Honor. And
So you have that would have certain basis, or would it, let's say, walking for 2 kilometers, would you consider a teacher to qualify to have hardship allowance? Ordinarily, a teacher in Metro Manila would not avail himself or herself of hardship allowance. Is that accurate? So it would be
Yes, Your Honor.
physical hardship.
Yes, yes. In fact, there's a DBM circular that details some of those.
I'll just read the circular. So the hazard pay would be different, would be the same as hardship allowance insofar as the teachers are concerned. But you spoke about the public health workers. Could you kindly explain?
Generally po yung hazard pay for health workers are based on the medical risks that are part of their work. Na. Yung sa DepEd po, in particular, yung aming hardship is really more yung hard to reach, physical access.
Are the teachers, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you have the floor. Just last one before I proceed. Before I turn it over to you, do the teachers have mandatory X-ray na libre? Chest X-ray? Because we know many teachers, that's a basic problem, a problem of tuberculosis.
Last year lang po, nagkaroon ng MOA signing with PhilHealth ang DepEd. Lahat po nung nakalista sa annual physical checkup ng male and female teachers are now included as a benefit ng PhilHealth. Ang inaayos lang po namin is because of the distribution of teachers, hindi lahat po sila may access sa isang PhilHealth accredited center. So we're just asking PhilHealth to identify more centers, especially in the rural areas po.
That's very important. We know that sometimes people don't have to die because of tuberculosis kung naaagapan. Thank you. Then I'll just proceed with my questions, Mr. Chairman, after your enumeration. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I just request for a list nung hardship posts na kailangan pa hong i-fill up ng DepEd?
We can give you, ma'am, the list of schools that are considered as yung hardship posts, and then maybe the corresponding teachers. Yeah, apa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Binay. Still on the hardship pay, equivalent records forms, sino po yung babayaran natin ng PS na 1.7 billion rather? Who are these employees specifically?
teachers, Your Honor.
So, dagdag compensation sa kanila to. Adjustment sa salary.
Correct.
Walang staff tong particular function na ito.
Non-teaching. No non-teaching. All for teachers.
So, all for teachers. Additional
Yes.
pay. Yung pag-increase sa master teacher, yung ganun-ganun.
And
Now,
hardship. Hardship is the bulk of that.
hardship is the bulk. Health and nutrition services. 261,303 PS. Sino po yung babayaran natin dito ng sweldo? I'm on page 106, sir. Sinong sinusweldohan po natin dito?
So we have our health and nutrition center in central office. That's true also for the regions. We have health staff in the regions.
These are doctors, nurses?
Yes. Dentist.
So sa regional office, yun yung dito galing yung sweldo po nila.
That's right, Your Honor.
Now, for the feeding program, you mentioned, Secretary, 16 pesos per day.
Yes, sir.
How many meals do we provide?
Isa lang po.
So that's one meal.
For one meal.
Can I ask what, in line with the Senator Pia's question, what can we buy with 16 pesos?
We'll give you the menu. Meron pong suggested menu ang FNRI.
Paiba-iba yan?
Yes,
Episode.
yes. We
Paiba-iba
try
yan.
to. Pero sir, we also add kasi meron pong gulayan sa paaralan. So yung generally yung Nutri-Pack kumbaga Inihahalo na lang po yun. And that contains all the basic nutrients.
Pero yung gulay is on top of the 16
Oh,
pesos.
oho na lang, dagdag na lang.
Now, you mentioned earlier 7%. Is it 8% instead? And not 7% of the wasted? I remember you mentioned 7, but our data shows it's 8.
Baka mali kami, sir, pero in our initial computation, it's at 7%.
103,
It's 125,
100, sir.
540.
130 divided by 1.
25 things happening. What's he referring to?
Equivalent to 8% of your 1.4
385.
million. It's 8%. This came from them? Galing sa inyo daw to eh. Huy.
Baka mali po. Baka 8% nga.
Just to confirm, 8? I'll give you the computation. 533,425 severely wasted plus 8% of wasted or 125,540 for a total of 638,764 beneficiaries. Is that a correct figure?
Okay, so that's correct.
Sir, kinorect daw po yung figure.
So
and
hindi na to.
The actual is really at 7%.
So how many beneficiaries?
103,000.
No, total. 105,000 and severely wasted
533,425 severely wasted.
Mr.
for a
Chair?
total of
For a total of 638,764.
764.
Sir, kung yan na yung total nyo, mali na yung figure nyo. Because the original figure when you were at 8%, the total for 16 pesos 16 pesos times 120 days times your adjusted figure, mag-iiba yung total It's not 1.226 billion anymore. Because the figures we initially had at 8% is at 1.22. Wala na yun. How? Ulitin natin 105 equivalent to 7% of wasted plus 533,425. You're talking a total of 638,764. Pareho pa rin.
Yes, sir, pareho pa rin. Mali lang yata yung 8. Oo.
Saan nag-adjust? So mali yung addition nyo dati?
Baka po mali lang yung type nung 8.
No. There's an amount, 125,000. Mali nga.
Apologize, Your Honor.
So tama yung total,
but
mali
the
yung
figures here now are the corrected ones.
mali yung assumptions. So that's 16 pesos. Iron tabs for 20 days. So that's 20 times 638,764. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So this is for all.
Yes.
Pag severely wasted at wasted ba, automatically under yung mababa yung iron, anemic siya?
We supply them, Your Honor.
Now, meron kayong toothbrush, toothpaste, and soap at 25 pesos. Gaano kalaki yung sabon ito? Kasi yung Mistisa soap nasa 50 pesos na eh.
Ito po napag-aralan na ng gusto ng ito po napag-aralan na ng gusto ng
So,
mga eskwelahan. Ito po ay liquid soap at saka liquid fluoride. Liquid fluoride. Tapos isang drop lang ho siya. And then for toothpaste, we don't ask them to rinse their mouth because we want the fluoride to stay longer. Sa washing po, they have a system of yung liquid soap. Talagang isang patak lang ho yan. Tapos they sing happy birthday while they wash. So, may sistema po yan. Itong 25 na yan po per student, talagang aral na po yan per student per
Now,
year.
what about yung 89,040,000 in GPBP areas? 10,000. What does that mean?
Ito naman po yung gulayan sa paaralan na
What does GPBP stand for?
That's
Ito na yung
grassroots.
ito na yung bottom up na bago.
GPB, yung GPB.
Pa.
So, ito yung 89 million na yun?
Opo.
That's right.
This is the GPB counterpart?
But
That's-
this is for gulayan sa paaralan, yung nandito sa nutrition. Ang ginagawa po namin dyan, we distribute parang seed money so they can start. It could be mga fingerlings or it could be seeds that they plant.
So,
Tapos
GPB
one time-
component to ng feeding program natin.
Opo, so, they supply additional vegetables for the feeding program.
Now,
Mr.
the
Chair?
Yes.
Sige, mga anong range ho yung binibigay niyong amount? Maximum of 10,000.
10,000 po per school.
Minimum of how much?
Wala. Actually, 10 na po,
10,000.
flat na
Ate,
po.
Flat rate na 10,000?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please. ma'am.
ito pong gulayan sa paaralan, bawat paaralan po ay primary or secondary ay meron pong gulayan. So, sa bawat punta po namin, let's say, mag-spot check, kailangan meron silang gulayan. Then, meron naka-allocate na pondong
Hindi.
10,000 worth pambili ng seeds. Malaki na yun, ang 10,000.
Opo, hindi, but ang DepEd memo ko po ay dapat lahat ng eskwelahan may gulayan sa paaralan. But not all the schools get the 10,000. Pinipili na lang po namin yung nangangailangan. Kasi yung iba, meron na pong sustainable na gulayan. Ito na po yung mga hindi pa nakaumpisa.
Ma'am, at 10,000 each, that's only 8,900 for schools.
Selected lang,
Bibigyan po ng
bibigyan yan.
kasi ang marami po sa kanila, meron na talagang sustainable na, so sila na mismo ang bumibili ng kanilang seeds. Iyon po yung objective of the program.
Yes. And after the one time na 10,000, we assume na sila igagawa na ng kanilang binhi at hindi na kailangan bigay ng bigay.
O kaya, they produce enough that they can sell so they can buy. Kasi minsan po yung iba dyan, ang ginagawa nila recycling. So ang binibenta po nila yung mga recycled plastic, ganyan. Yung pondo nila yon, yun ang kanilang gagamitin pambili naman ng mga seeds.
Who manages that?
Essentially, the principal po.
Yeah.
Kung meron po kayong eskwelahan na makita na walang gulayan, kahit po sa Maynila, pwede po nyo isumbong sa amin at hahabulin po namin.
So it should be in every school whether there's funding or not.
Dapat
Sige.
po. Kasi meron din kaming programa po sa urban centers to even do vertical gardens and roof deck. No? So, dapat even in an urban center, dapat meron silang gulayan.
At kaakibat po ng inyong binanggit na gulayan ay sinabi nyo rin recycle po ang plastic. At ibig sabihin po sa 10,000 pagbili ng mga buto ay dapat hindi na yan bibili ng organic compost dahil sa mga food waste ng mga bata at mga guro ay ginagawa na po yung organic compost. So, ang ibig sabihin po niyan ay pinapatupad natin yung solid waste management law sa bawat eskwelahan. So, ibig sabihin po, pwede tayong mag-spot check sa mga eskwelahan na number 1, may gulayan, ay pangalawa, ay naghihiwalay ng basura, may recycling, at merong paggagawa ng compost. May eco-shed dapat po yan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
We're happy to share with you that in NCR, all schools should have that. Wag po muna kayong bibisita sa probinsya kasi inumpisan po namin sa NCR. Pero within the next year,
Okay.
dapat lahat po ng eskwelahan may Materials Recovery Center and gulayan.
Kasi Mr. Chairman, the reason why I say this is it's a 13-year-old law. January 2001 pa ang batas na ito. Kung tayo, mga guro, tayong nanunungkulan at ang mga guro at ang mga estudyante ang unang lumalabag sa batas na yan, paano natin matuturuan ang masasabi sa ibang tao kung ang DepEd mismo na dapat magturo ng tamang aral ay lumalabag sa batas? Kaya po, hinihikayat ko po ang DepEd na ipatupad po itong ating 13-year-old law at maging modelo po ang DepEd sa lahat po ng eskwelahan na sakop po ninyo.
If I may share, Your Honor, Ang nagiging problema lang po namin dun sa segregation sa probinsya, kaya inumpisan po namin sa NCR, wala pong nangongolekta. Sa mga syudad, meron pong association yung mga junkyard. So alam po namin kung saan ipapasa. Ang nagiging logistical problem lang po sa mga probinsya, hindi sila organisado. Kaya nagsisegregate tapos wala pong nagpipick up, parang nagiging fire hazard pa siya.
Ganito po, papapuntahin ko sa inyo yung head ng National Solid Waste Commission, si Eli, Undersecretary Pahe. Pinupondohan namin sila ang dapat nagtuturo sa mga LGUs at pati sa DepEd. Call Eli now please to report to Secretary Luistro para turuan po, i-seminar lahat ng inyong regional director at kung meron kayong USEC in charge, tututukan. At kung hindi magaling si Eli, isumbong nyo. Dahil ang budget naman DNR, yan po tayo nakatutok. At maliban dyan, si Sonia Mendoza ng Mother Earth Foundation na napakagaling na ay maaari din magtulo sa inyo ng libre po. Dahil yan ang kanilang ginagawa. So there's no reason actually for us to violate a 13-year-old law. And I know it's difficult. But when you say that nobody will collect because zero waste is possible, dahil yung mga plastic ay maaring ginagamit ng muli, ang mga bote at lata ay ginagamit ng muli, and hardly anything will actually have to go to waste if we segregate and then we use it as compost, yung mga biodegradable. So I will do a spot check and I will call you, Secretary. You've
Yes,
always been very cooperative and supportive. As I do the spot check of LGUs of the implementation of solid waste, may I kindly inform you that I will spot check some schools if they have gulayan and if they implement 9003. Thank you.
We'll be very happy, Your Honor, if you're able to do that.
Just one more point, Sec, before we wind up, because we have 1 o'clock hearing covering other agencies. I think we have another setting on Monday, but please, baka naman pwede yung first 2 rows na lang ang magpunta. Hindi naman kailangan siguro yung... No, so that they can do their job. This is not like the House where the regional director should be here, really. No need. Just the bureaus, perhaps, and the ASECs and USECs who can answer the questions. But one point before we suspend, Secretary, nakalagay pa sa budget niyo, monitoring and evaluation of BUB projects. Sir, wala nang BUB. Is this the BUB of the previous year or the BUB or the GPB for next year?
Well,
Because
that should be
COA-wise,
monitoring of GPB.
COA-wise, you cannot spend this for GPB. No, because
Yeah.
legally,
Yung sa grassroots, diba?
yes po.
So perhaps it should be an errata.
It should be an
erratum, Your
errata
Honor.
because you might not be allowed to spend it to monitor GPB projects in 2015 but only BUB projects in 2014. In 2014. But you said next hearing, mahaba-haba pa to, but you get the trend, the trust. We just want to find out and be able to be enlightened kung saan napupunta, particularly and specifically, yung mga MOE allocations, pati yung CO na hihingi namin. I'll also projected on the part of the National Museum. Also, ma'am, your big capital outlay. Wala na si Senator Nancy dito, but offhand, why do we have a museum in Batanes?
Oh, that's beautiful.
No,
Oh, it's
Batanes itself is a
preserving.
museum.
Yes.
No, but a museum. Batanes itself, I mean, it's a museum piece. It's a nice place. But we don't have any in Cebu, Iloilo, or...
We do.
We do?
Akala mo ako spokesman.
Spokesperson nga, yun.
Hindi,
No, ma'am. Example lang, kasi may nagtatanong at marami nagtatanong.
Chairman,
That'll be
pasensya
one
na.
of the questions.
Pag museum, excited ako dyan. Paliwanag mo kung bakit sa Batanes yung lumang struktura na panahon pa ng Amerikano kaya dun ginagawa at hindi bagong struktura. Paliwanag mo sa chairman para alam niya. Pupunta ka doon para makita mo.
Darating tayo dyan, ma'am. Not now. Juan na, ma'am.
Ganda-ganda ron, super.
Juan, nakapunta ka na ron, ma'am? Sino kasama
Doon ako
mo?
doon ako nagpasko at nag-New Year at ako ay naglakad doon ng 2 linggo kasama ang aking 2 anak. Ako ay adopted Ivatan.
Okay. Okay, sabi mo, ma'am eh.
Sumisip-sip kay Butchabad, ha? Talagang love ko lang ang Batanes just like love ko ang iba't ibang lugar. At paliwanag mo kung bakit kailangan ng museo doon dahil yung pinuntahan ko yung lumang struktura sa anong bayan. Ipaliwanag mo, Ana.
Ma'am, hindi ako, just to be prepared for it because there are some questions that were coursed through me.
Dapat nga magkaroon ng museo sa bawat probinsya. Pondohan kaya natin. One museum in every region. Is that enough? Or every province? Ayan. Sige. Champion ka dyan. Natanong mo na rin, kung
One
meron sa
naman.
Batanes, dapat meron sa Tawi-Tawi. Dapat
One
meron
naman.
sa Sorsogon. Dapat meron sa Albay. Meron... Sige na, one museum
One na,
for
ma'am,
every...
marami pa yung wasted, ma'am, eh. Yung wasted na estudyante. Yun na muna bago yung museum.
Hindi, kasama yun. Kasama yan sa learning. Oh.
Anyway, Sec, we'll continue with this. We have a 1 o'clock hearing with the Office of the President and with other executive offices as well. We will continue when? At what time? At 1:30, but again, Sec, you don't have to bring everyone, just the staff that we need. In fact, not even all your USECs need to be here, because the line of questioning will be the same. Yung attached, papuntahin pa rin kasi may mga tanong yung ibang senators who are aware that there is a second hearing. Just in case po. Just in case po. So ma'am, next hearing na lang? Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, dito rin kami. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you, Sec. And sorry, I have to let you go so that we don't feed you lunch. Thank you po at magandang umaga, hapon sa inyong lahat. We'll see you at 1 o'clock Monday. Hearing is suspended.